I think that fundamentally the entire concept of like the marketplace of ideas and the entire concept underlining the marketplace of ideas dies. I think that fundamentally the entire concept of like the marketplace of ideas and the entire concept underlining the marketplace of ideas died. I think that fundamentally the entire concept of like the marketplace of ideas and the entire concept underlining the marketplace of ideas died. I think that fundamentally the entire concept of like the marketplace of ideas and the entire concept underlining the marketplace of ideas died.
Yes, sir. Alright, am I louder now? Yeah, you send it through OBS to Discord,
fundamentally, the entire concept of like the marketplace of ideas and the entire
Or
concept
did I get louder?
underlining the marketplace of ideas died.
Fuck me. I'm already maxed in Discord, so I was I've seen it increase if I increase it in Discord, but or in OBS. Because I'm already maxed on Discord. It seemed to once. Somebody reported that it did, but yeah. I assumed that it didn't, but then someone said it did. Said I sounded louder. True. Okay. I'm just gonna throat my mic and scream the whole show for 2 hours. Alright, here we go. We are. We're real. You get the views. Alrighty. Click in stream. Sharing the screen for the intro. I'd like to both tune in, or all three tune.
Our forefathers fought for liberty, individual freedom, self-expression, and the right to self-determination. They created a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, establishing a nation of free individuals who ignited a bright beacon of hope. America's a land where any person, from any background, can succeed, so long as they endeavor forthright with determination in their heart. A melting pot, the greatest hits album of the human race. We gather here today to renew that sacred bond, that oath to freedom. Welcome to the marketplace of ideas.
Good evening, and welcome to the show that commits acts of vibe terrorism through a sheer deluge of cringe retardery. It's the Marketplace of Ideas. I'm your host, Kyle Smith. I'll be providing the retardation, and with me, as always, a man who will be bringing the cringe, James Vagabond.
Thank you, Kyle. And, you know, don't sell yourself short, Kyle. I'm sure we shall each have added our equal measures of cringiness before the night is through. But here to desperately protect the audience from our weapons-grade vibes terrorism are our two incredible guests. Joining us for his fifth appearance on the Marketplace of Ideas is a man who I've grown to really respect over the years. Now, I actually started watching your content, Tom, as a hate watcher, I guess about 5 years ago. You were sort of center-right oriented, not foolish enough to be a big Trump sweeper, but I'd say very anti-SJW oriented. Tired of the crazies on the far left, and I was easily triggered by you, and very much a hate watcher of yours. Right, so I wanted to fucking hate you, but even when I thought your takes were dog shit, you were always such a good-spirited, fun, respectful guy. I fucking couldn't hate you, Tom. And as you kept appearing on my feed over the years, it's been great feeling more and more excited when your stream pops up in my algorithm. So thanks for joining us once again in the Marketplace of Ideas. Why don't you tell us all a little bit about your political journey as a streamer over the years?
I don't know that I was ever anti-SJW. I've always been somebody who fought the leftists, but I started off as a Republican podcaster, then eventually moved to streaming a little bit on Facebook. And then as I started to find more and more left-wing ideas acceptable, and really just found the entire right wing to be grifters and bullshitters, and the more that they totally compromised on all their values and started voting for somebody like Trump and defending the indefensible, the more I found them all to just be the worst fucking people on earth, and started to feel okay, I don't fit in with this crowd anymore. And they canceled my own audience, canceled me. So eventually moved on to streaming on Twitch, got banned there, moved on to YouTube. So we're making the rounds. I'll be on. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Damn. Wait. What'd you get banned for?
You and I have talked about this a couple of times. It's a really fucking stupid story. It's really you don't even want to know.
I was just curious. Cam. I didn't
yeah,
remember. Okay.
Another time.
It's a fucking stupid thing. But yeah, it's So now I'm waiting to get banned on YouTube so I can move on to Rumble. So
Hell yeah.
Where the real money is at. Beautiful. All right. And so we come to our second guest, a man who needs no introduction, but we'll do it anyways. The man who went from spamming infestors in StarCraft 2 15 years ago to defending America from the suicidal baneling spam of the far left, and the brainlet zergling rushes of the far right red pill spaces and many other extremist ideologies. A man who went from cleaning carpets in order to pull himself up by his bootstraps to recognizing with compassion how we need to support one another in society so that each of us has the equal opportunity to flourish. Yes, everyone, it's the man who took the hellscape of online gamer bro culture by the balls and made room for both common sense and empathy. A man who truly paved it on his own. Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bunnell II, welcome to the Marketplace of Ideas. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you? How's life?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that wonderful intro. I don't think I could have written it better myself, so
yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, we had AI write it for us, so no, we don't use any AI. I've had allegations that my AI, my writing is so good. It was
also AI when you were talking about how much you wanted to hate me and everything. That was all. Also AI.
Yeah. AI just knew the right angle to take, and that's hating you in the past, but forgiving your redemption arc now. So yeah, welcome to the Marketplace of Ideas. We're trying to bring. I like to describe us as the Iron Chef of politics. We're trying to bring a little bit of irreverence, a little bit of fun, so that we can try and have these conversations without ripping each other's faces off and spiking them onto the floor. And one way we like to do that is playing some of our games.
And so the way that we score some of our games is through our market. As you can see, we are the Marketplace of Ideas, and therefore we have a fake market where we display all of our guests who come on the show. And the people who are in our Discord can spend our fake currency, we call it Grift Coin, to support the creators of their choice. As you can see, North has claimed the top spot within the market. Tom Foolery...
Insider trading.
Probably so. Probably collusion with non-fawn.
Perfectly legal in our system.
We don't regulate, that's true. Tom, you're still hanging on to second, and as you can see, Stephen, though you are new to this list, as I've just added you today, somebody has already shown your support for you. So, if you'd like to show your support for your favorite creators, you can join our Discord. There is a link, if Stephen and Tom, if you might share that. It is located in the side chat of our little Discord window here. We've got a link to our Discord. We've also got a link to our YouTube channel. If you could be so kind to jump over, give us a like on the stream, maybe a sub if you're feeling generous. It would greatly help us out, and then you can go back to the streamer of your choice. Much appreciated.
I'm trying to understand this marketplace card. What is that? What is my emoji? What does that stand for? There? Is that Illinois?
Oh, it's supposed to be the flag of Israel, but it didn't come out right. It shows up properly elsewhere in the Discord, but
oh, interesting. Okay.
We were gonna do the
well,
D, but it didn't look good, so we decided
it looked like shit. Yeah.
God damn it! The meme didn't show up. Come on.
I see.
No, it didn't look great.
We're good. Okay.
Yeah, at some point I'll make custom emojis or something when I've got the time. But,
Israel's
for
strongest
now,
warriors. Anyway, so then, Kyle, what do we have next on our agenda here?
well, we have a segment that we're going to use to get inside the mind of a leftist, the mind of a DSA voter. And some have derisively called this game D&D debate, and I'm not really sure exactly what that means, but joke's on you motherfuckers, I am a DM in real life and I'm into that shit. So today we will test our guest's rhetorical strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and especially charisma in a series of trials that we like to call Strawman, Steelman. And it comes with an audio cue, but I didn't have it up because I've got a lot of shit to juggle. Let's have you do that in the future, James. But here to Strawman, Steelman.
Steelman.
So this is the game where we give our guests a strawman argument. This week we'll be focusing on leftists and DSA members, something that's going to be a little bit exaggerated beyond what someone like that might actually believe. And your job, as our guests, is going to be to steelman that argument as best you can. Find the merit, give the most charitable take that you possibly can, before you have the opportunity to say what you actually believe. So then, as tradition here on the Marketplace of Ideas and Strawman Steelman, we will welcome our guest to the Hall of Heroes of Debate, and coming back for an unprecedented fifth time, we have Tom Foolery. Welcome back, sir. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get these scrolls down here. All right. Our graphics guy threw down a few extra scrolls. That's fine. We don't need all of those, but that's okay. Tom, if you could please read the first scroll.
I'm sorry. Give me just a second. I'm trying to adjust my shit so that people can see what y'all are doing without me. having to keep
Yes, please
clicking back
embiggen
and
us.
forth. Okay.
Wait, are we like graded on this, or do people vote on it, or?
We are not going to ask people to, we're not going to depend on people who vote because, we're still pretty new and I don't want to put that much pressure on our 147
concurrent
beautiful
viewers.
subscribers. Well, there'll be more. But yeah, for now, we're just going to be assessing each other. So after each one of these, we'll take a second to say how the other person did and any other thoughts that you might have on the matter.
Well, I understand he wasn't paying attention when you opened the scroll, so I think you should roll a d20. And if he gets less than 11, you have to censor every other word, and then he has to figure out what it was.
Kyle, do you have a D20 handy?
So.
I don't know what any of that means, but
If I'm the figurative DM here, I'm going to rule against that because I don't want to do the extra work.
There we go.
Okay, that's fair. Well, no, if you were a real DM, you would just fake roll it and say you did.
There we go. Yeah.
No, it was a nat 20, I swear.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go. Undeterred.
All right, Tom.
Congress is ineffective because there aren't enough people in it. We should replace our current legislature with a 100,000 member council of comrades and let them select Bernie Sanders to be the supreme proletariat.
All right. A little bit of exaggeration beyond what the DSA believes, but give us your best go at steelmanning that.
Initially there was supposed to be some sort of proportionality with the with Congress. Obviously that has not continued with the Senate, especially the fact that the Senate is fucking up just about everything that Congress wants to send through, and that the representation is not exactly what it is that people currently want from them, with Israel and I don't know, AIPAC and all these other things that people feel like there should be a reassemblage of folks because they're tired of old people, the same people year after year being in these positions. They don't want those folks anymore. So obviously we need Bernie Sanders as the young new face in the presidency.
Beautiful.
Got a little limp for Steele at the end there, but everybody, we're all familiar with the DSA proposal on restructuring the branches of government. Yeah, has everybody read up on that to some degree?
A little bit, yeah.
I don't know if it was in a
You're talking about like getting rid of
the Senate thing in their PDF or whatever.
So the plan I believe is to abolish the Senate, basically expand the legislature to be a single chamber, like giant house basically, and then the executive and the judiciary would be selected by and governed by the legislature, is my understanding. I could be missing a few details there, but that's the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Tom, you did a decent job there. What do you actually think about that, though? What do you think about abolishing the Senate?
I mean, I'm not exactly. I'm not happy with the Senate, but I do think that maybe making it to where it's a little bit more proportional is a good idea. I would rather, 2 tiers for legislation to go through. I think that is necessary, but there is a complication that I don't know if we can fix, where there's supposed to be checks and balances between each branch of government, and there aren't much checks on the Supreme Court whatsoever outside of the nominations, and that's something that I've never really heard good ideas on how we could fix. So while I might be unhappy with the outcomes a lot of times, I don't know that there's actually a better solution currently.
Fair enough. Steven, do you have any thoughts on the matter? What do you feel about the Senate? Should we keep it?
The problem is analyzing it in a vacuum. I was talking about this with a friend earlier. It feels like there's a lot of things in the United States right now that tend to favor, for one reason or another, conservatives. So the Senate gives 2 votes per state, and the per state thing seems to favor conservatives pretty heavily, that each state gets equal representation regardless of population. It gives obviously a massively disproportionate amount of representation to states that tend to be red over blue ones. And then you also have your electoral college, which kind of favors, I think, the conservatives a bit more with the winner-take-all electoral vote system. And then you have your House of Representatives, which in its current state doesn't favor them as much, but still does kind of favor conservatives because it's capped on how many representatives we even have. So smaller states still have some disproportionate representation in the House. So I mean, I don't think I would ever get rid of the Senate. I think I do like the concept of the state having some kind of representative body to the federal government. Like, I think that the state of Wyoming might have a different interest to the U.S. government than the state of Texas, or that New York might have a different interest than the state of Florida or whatever. And the idea that a state no longer has a say when a state is like we can recognize that as a congruent body of, it's got its own legal system, right? They have their own whole office. Their presidents are their governors, their state assemblies are their congresses, and then they've got their own Supreme Courts and everything too. So I think it's okay to recognize individual states. But there's too much power, I think, holistically in our government granted to conservatives, and something should be looked at. But I wouldn't abolish the Senate as my first or fifth or 10th.
Do you agree with the idea, though, of them? So when it comes to the Electoral College and the way that they proportionalize Congress and the Senate, obviously the Senate's fucked. But when it comes to even the House of Representatives and the way that they give, am I thinking of delegates? The way that they give votes to different states. Do you agree with them trying to avoid the tyranny of the majority, or do you think that everything should be proportional?
Tyranny of the majority in regards to the Electoral College?
Yeah, Electoral College, obviously, it somewhat applies to the House of Representatives to some extent, but yeah.
Or I'm trying to understand what you mean. I think that the President of the United States is supposed to be the U.S. representative for all of our people abroad, and then he's supposed to be the executor of laws in our country. I don't know why that wouldn't just be left to a popular vote. The U.S. president is here to represent all Americans and then to represent federal law. I don't know why he would have to be voted on by some states more than other states based on the Electoral College. I guess that doesn't really make sense to me. So I feel like popular vote for the president is fine. As per the House, I just feel like if the Senate is already favoring smaller states, why do they also have a little bit of favor in the House as well? I feel like they have one. Why both? For tyranny of the majority,
say that again?
We have the counterbalance. There is no tyranny of the majority because we have the counterbalance of the Senate to the House. So how do you have a tyranny of the majority there? No? You still have to bring on at least half your states for legislation, 50 senators or more, depending on if you're filibuster proof or not, right?
Yeah, but isn't there limits on the amount of seats that I could have sworn the last time I went over this, the amount of seats that California gets is not nearly as like representative as like Nevada, or sorry,
Well,
is it
Nevada,
Yeah.
or Wyoming or Idaho. I think these smaller states, their voters are more represented in the House than California ones are, but not by as much as like the Senate, which is hugely disproportionate, right?
Of course.
Yeah, but I think that's just because because as long as the House is uncapped, you're going to have to make, or I'm sorry, as long as the House is capped, you're going to have to make some sacrifices on proportionality because you're not going to be able to math that out perfectly to make the representation.
So you would go with just a straight popular vote for because I've talked about the fact that I think that I would just make it to where the electorates are just proportional to who it is. So like if in Georgia, Donald Trump gets about half the vote and Biden gets about half the vote, I would just make it to where the electors are split between the two, but I don't know if that actually works with.
But if you're splitting electors at that point, why not just split the vote?
Yeah, why not just count the vote exactly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it seems like
I feel like there is still somewhat of a difference, but because you would have to round to differences, and it would still give somewhat of a benefit to the minority in some cases.
Yeah, but they don't need that.
I don't know
right?
that I'm against the popular vote.
When I'm thinking of like the executor of laws in the United States of America, or I'm sorry, but wait, I'll get to that. When I'm thinking of the Congress in the United States of America, I think that the state of New York, the state of Washington, these can have differences of perspective and how they would want to be represented to the federal government. And if it was the case that the larger state always overruled the smaller state, then I think a state can feel kind of fucked at that point. Like, well, we have like no say basically on how, and this is the federal government that creates laws to govern all of us. When it comes to the president of the United States, and the president is the part of the executive body that's just for legal enforcement, well, why is it that if one state has 50 million people and another state has 100,000 people, why should that 100,000 people have disproportionately so much more of a say in the president than the 50 million people? The president is supposed to be enforcing the laws equally amongst, equally, right, amongst the entire population. So why should the smaller state have a smaller group of people have such a larger say there? Like the president shouldn't be enforcing federal laws selectively. The president shouldn't be like, well, I'm going to enforce the law in Florida and not in California. Or I'm going to enforce the law here, not here. Like you already had an opportunity to make your argument to the executive body in the Senate as a state. Well, now the president, who's supposed to be voted on by or represent like the executor of law in the United States for all Americans, I think that can be more apportioned based on population. Does that make sense? Like if New York has 100,000 people and Washington at 1 million, like I think it makes sense that both states want some kind of representation equally into the federal body. But once we're past the laws and now we get a president to enforce them, I don't know why 100,000 people should have the same say as 1 million people, or why it should even be made equal at all.
I agree in theory, but I wonder if if I look throughout my lifetime, there has never been a Republican who has won the popular vote on his first run. They've only ever won on their incumbency. And so if that was the case, I look back at these things, I would think, okay, well, the Republicans they never would have won a presidency likely because it always would have been a Democrat running as an incumbent, not a Republican. But then at the same time, based on how that would be proportioned, I do think that the Republicans would kind of change their policies and change what it is that they're advocating for to become like a bit more liberal, I guess, to make it to where they are grabbing some of those people to still be capable of being competitive. So I think that is kind of necessary because currently they don't have much of a reason to modernize. They can win with small minorities, so that might still be better. Yeah.
Okay. Are we arguing this the whole show, or I feel
No, I think that mostly covers it. It seems like we agree that there's definitely room for reform, and maybe it makes more sense to have a popular vote for the presidency, but we can't delegitimize the separation of the states. It seems important for our country. So, with that said, Stephen, if you wouldn't mind, as I welcome you to the hall, reading your scroll here. How would a leftist feel about independent media?
How would a leftist feel about independent media?
So read your scroll.
I'm reading the Strawman. Okay. There's a reason people say Alex Jones was right about everything. The lamestream media are all equally partisan liars for corporate interests. That's why people turn to independent news like Candace Owens and Kyle Kulinski, whose only motivation is the truth.
All right, Stephen. How legitimate do you find this claim to be?
Or rather, perform as if you find these legitimate.
Maybe that's a better way to do it.
Perform as if I find these things legitimate.
Steelman, that straw man. become the least cringe version of the person who believes this?
Sure. I mean, I think that Candace Owens and Kyle Kalinske are valuable members of the alternative media that bring up issues that we would have never heard otherwise. Same thing with Alex Jones. I think that we might have issues with them platforming different types of people to talk about COVID vaccines or to talk about, frogs turning gay or whatever things like people like to joke about. But the reality is if not for them, we would all think that ivermectin was literally horse paste and nobody would have any idea about any of these topics at all. So even when they are incorrect on things, they at the very least give the wider population the ability to push back on what somebody might say, the crazy things that they believe, the crazy things that they're saying. So for all of the losers out there that hate alternative media and complain about having to push back on misinformation all day, well, there are probably people that believed a lot of this stuff in the past, and you would have never had the opportunity to address it because all of the corporate overlords at CNN and Fox News and all these other places who very clearly have their slants against their own corporate interests because, they have to literally sell ads to these people and be able to run sponsors on all of them to make any money. They're never going to platform any of these kind of like kooky or crazier ideas. So even if they are incorrect in the areas that they're incorrect, they give us the ability to push back and be stronger people ourselves.
Brilliant.
All right. That's a decent amount of charity for Candace and Kyle. But, Stephen, what do you actually believe?
These people are absolute fucking demons and ghouls. They're more sold out than corporate media are because there's no responsibility to any of their platforms. They have no oversight. There are no editorial boards. None of them get fired when they're incorrect on things over and over again. Oftentimes they're bought out by even worse interests. Would I rather have CNN bought out by Coca-Cola, or would I rather have Tim Pool bought out by Russia? There's just literally absolutely no fact-checking, no honesty, no integrity for any of these people. And, in place of, you could argue sponsorships and corporate stuff might have a deleterious effect on mainstream media people reporting. I would say that social media algorithms, total lack of accountability to be correct on anything, and broad AdSense models or user-funded stuff can create an even more perverse incentive on some of these alternative media platforms because now they are fully incentivized to give the audience exactly what they want over and over and over again. And there's no reason for them to ever change, even if directionally they're completely and totally incorrect on a thing. There might be a big story that WAPO, New York Times, Fox News, anybody could break that might even rustle the feathers of the people on their own side. But that person has every incentive to break that story because they know it would be a huge story and they know they'd be correct on it. But in the alternative media space, you would never do that because you know where your bread is buttered and your audience would abandon you if you did anything like that. You can see the Daily Wire right now is going through this issue of sucking up too much to kind of like a pro-Trump audience when Ben Shapiro himself wasn't really feeling it. And now they've had to bleed off like two massive content creators because there was just too much division between the crew.
And now they're eating their own audience. Yeah.
It's nice to see a little bit. Tom, what are your thoughts on this independent media issue? Do you think that there's any value to independent media, or do you think that this idea is completely bunk?
Theoretically, yeah, obviously, it makes sense to have some sort of check on the mainstream media and the people who are a lot bigger. But overall, I think that I would give up my job and all of your jobs in a second to get rid of all independent media, because I feel like our country would just be a billion times better off if we all disappeared.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Genocide the fucking independent media.
Oh God. There's our spicy clip for the day. We talk about these evolutions in the information landscape, like the Gutenberg press, right? Like it's a brilliant revolution for information and freedom, and we're just spreading these great ideas. And eventually we seem to have the fruits of that. But first the Gutenberg press actually opened up its own miniature wave of misinformation, much like we're seeing now. And it's easy to get depressed and worry about how are we ever going to make it through this one. And fair, we might fucking not. This might be the fucking end of the species with how big the stakes are these days. But we get through it somehow, and in the end, the printing press has brought up the intelligence of the species in some ways. And let's hope that someday the independent media can be that kind of check. But in the meantime, it's just a hellscape that we all have to endure, and not good.
Well, even right now we have YouTube loosening what it is that they're holding people accountable for. They just brought Sneeko back and a bunch of other people where they were like, "Oh, we were wrong for banning you guys for COVID misinformation, and even the shit that they said that they were wrong for, they were right on. They were right, and they're still right. And they ended up bringing a bunch of people back and admitting that they were wrong just because there's been a bunch of pressure from Trump, probably coercive pressure from the inside, just the way that they did with Mark Zuckerberg, threatening to lock him up over and over. The fact that like they are even doing all of this historical revisionism right now from the top down, I felt like there was a lot of honor in the way that YouTube and Twitter and Facebook were all making sure that they were fact checking people. I do like the idea of community notes. That might be a little bit better. Like there might be some improvements there from the way that people have pushed back, but that doesn't mean that like all together we should just kind of give in to the conspiracy theories, because that's what the people want. And I think that that's what's happening right now.
Destiny, you were going to add a little bit more, your 2 cents.
I guess I feel like one thing that people one thing that people have a hard time understanding is there are certain things that we say they're good, but they're good because they imply another thing, and when that other thing disappears, people have a hard time understanding that the thing itself might not actually be good anymore. So, for instance, I think a lot of people make fun of this without understanding why it's so funny. You remember like Dave Rubin, like the marketplace of ideas and everything, right? People used to make fun of him for that. Like the open marketplace of idea. Well, actually, fuck, I don't. Yeah, right, you would.
I mean
that's
that's
the term marketplace of
yeah,
ideas.
that's part of where we got our show name. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think so. Like people make fun of the marketplace of ideas, but the reason why sometimes the concept is laughable is because it's actually for any marketplace to function, you have to have some like authentic form of competition, right? There has to be some sort of like price discovery mechanism. There has to be information available to consumers. There has to be like a lack of a monopolistic or monopoly, like too much power on one side of the equation. There has to be equal, barriers to entry for different firms, et cetera, all this stuff, right? But absent any of that, like you can't just say like, oh, well, we need free markets with no government intervention, but there's like one monopolistic firm that owns everything, and the CEO is like torturing and murdering children, but nobody can speak out against him because if he goes away, like he's the only manufacturer of insulin in the state, right? Like these are not free market conditions. So when people talk about alternative media, the concept of the alternative media, that you have a group of people that can report honestly and fearlessly on things who aren't beholden to some corporate overlord or whatever else, the concept is actually really cool. That sounds amazing. That sounds awesome. But what we actually got was we live in an environment. I think the United States uniquely has this issue. We have like the environment of like the customer is always right. And we feel the same way with the voter too. Sometimes voters are wrong, and sometimes they fuck up, and sometimes they're stupid, but it's never the voter's fault. It's always like somebody else's fault who's running the show. And for the alternative media, we just the standards that people give them are non-existent. And I just think it's had a really negative impact on our media field because alternative media has come out and they are beholden to all the same issues that corporate media was, because they rely on subscribers or donations from maybe an even more radicalized fan base. And nobody seems to ever take that into an account, right? Like people saying, like, well, what are the incentives for, the Washington Post or whatever? And it's like, well, what are your incentives, bro? Like, are you ever going to agree with something Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris says when you know your entire fan base is super radicalized against these people? Like, but nobody ever addresses that, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah, it seems that the only check that we currently have on alternative media is itself alternative media, where you have people reacting to people like Kyle Kulinski and criticizing him. But that doesn't seem like it's enough, considering how much reach he and others that we listed currently have. But sure. For now, moving on. Tom, we've got one more for you, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, hang on. That's the wrong button. There we go. Oh, figuring it out. Here we are. Tom, one more for you.
Wait, is that an Asian version of me, or
did you guys? I mean, it's a squinting version of you. If you want to be racist about it, I suppose it could be an Asian version. But I mean, okay, it's your call. But anyway, here we go.
My bad. Okay. Going back to first principles, fundamentally, no human is illegal, and global hegemony has shaped and exploited these immigration crises to create cheap labor and exploitable nations such that borders are tools of neo-colonial empire.
Brave take.
All right, Tom, what do you think about that? Can you Steelman that for us? Give us the most charitable take.
Yeah, was that
too many big words? I was
going to say, was that mishmash of buzzwords coherent enough for you?
We even threw in an extra semicolon or two just to try and trigger you more, but you completely no-sold it.
Son of a bitch.
I mean, obviously, all concepts are going to be subjective to some extent, and the fact that, like, over time, different people have taken different lands from different groups, that any group has some inherent right to a land is kind of bullshit, and especially when almost everybody who has land right now took it from somebody else. For us to keep thinking that there is some sort of inherent that this is inherently your property, or you inherently have the right to make decisions over that land, kind of goes back to the might makes right sort of thought process that says that just because you have it at this time and you were strong enough to take over it, that now you get to keep it.
That's a fairly charitable take, but what do you actually think?
I mean, I think that over time, everybody fought over lands. There was non-stop wars. There were non-stop, fighting for theological reasons, philosophical reasons, or even just because they wanted more territory. And eventually we, I think, did the right thing and built the United Nations and tried to tell everybody to just keep their borders where they were at and move on from there. And this has created the most peaceful time in human history, to where we have had the least amount of war, even while everybody's running around acting like the sky is falling, because there's Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, Palestine. That at the same time, this still isn't nearly as bad as it has been throughout most of human history. And so I think even if you don't think that there is some sort of inherent right, as far as utility goes, we are probably all best off just telling everybody to stay where they're at, draw their borders where they're at, and leave it there.
Very good. Stephen, any thoughts on the call for open borders?
I mean, I think it's dumb. But I mean, we have to have conversations about immigration, and they seem really difficult to have because the conversation is so supercharged on I would blame the right exclusively for this. I've never heard a person on the left. I'm sure there are some extremists that call for open borders. I don't know who the fuck these people are. They say Biden and Obama and everything, but obviously they don't. And they didn't have the reputations for it, on the left at least. So, I mean, we need to have conversations. Immigration enforcement is important, both on our borders and in the interior of the country. We have to have these things to have a meaningful country. But the Republicans have done such a good job at just having the most toxic conversation imaginable about these topics that it makes it hard to even bring up anything related to these topics, because it's just so vitriolic and hate-filled now.
Well, I mean, the majority of Americans right now actually believe that the Democrats are in favor of open borders, and not just the majority of Americans. It's 64% of Americans, but it's also 54% of Democrats believe the Democrat Party is in favor of open borders. Now, they don't have any polling on what percentage of Americans are actually in favor of or what percentage of Democrats are actually in favor of open borders. They just know,
or even what the hell they mean.
The majority
by
of
that.
Americans.
Yeah, because what they probably mean is they just were told so often that Biden was open borders, then that's
yeah, he was. It happened.
Yes, well, the thought of open borders is that they made legal pathways or legally allowed people in, that they're still calling those people illegal immigrants who came in. It makes absolutely no sense. But the fact that I do think that there is a growing faction of people who actually are in favor of open borders. And we look at 30% of the Democrats right now identify as democratic socialists. A lot of people keep saying, oh, well, they don't even know what that means. And the platform, they don't know what the platform is. They don't agree with any of this stuff. But I just saw polling the other day showing that about 30% of Americans, 30% of Democrats are against kicking out illegal immigrants who have committed crimes. They're against deporting those people, which means that they're likely not in favor of deporting anybody at that point. And I do think that this might be an actual growing thing, because obviously when it comes to mainstream media, nobody in mainstream media was ever in favor of open borders. But when you get on TikTok, those people are there. All the Strawman versions of Democrats that you've ever heard that you thought those people don't exist, go to TikTok for a little bit and you will find
TikTok,
every
Twitter,
single Strawman of Democrats.
The dark corners.
I mean, I definitely agree with that on TikTok you can find crazy people. But when people say that they are socialists or whatever, I mean, again, what does socialist mean? I guess Obama and Biden must have been socialist, and Hillary, because that's what the Republicans have been saying nonstop in our political news forever. So it's not surprising to me that people are super confused about these terms. I think it's been an intentional Republican strategy for decades in this country. I was gonna say, I feel like when people say that, like I know there's a lot of voting right now saying that the Democratic Party is too far left, that's like an opinion that a lot of Americans have. I feel like when they're saying things like this, I feel like the Republicans just like blasted that trans stuff so hard that when most people think of like the left in America, they just think of like trans sports and DEI, and that's like the extent to which they can even meaningfully engage with the question. And I don't know, I just think it's kind of a goofy. I think it's just a goofy way that Republicans have corrupted our discourse.
And even for a lot of people like Mockler, who have now started going around saying like, no, I agree, Biden was horrible on the border and shit like that. I would not blame any of this on Biden. I think Biden did the best he could with the problem that he had. But the surge of immigrants coming to the border, Kamala Harris was out there nonstop saying, do not come. You had Biden saying that they didn't want people flooding the border. But Donald Trump the whole time was saying, they have open borders. Before Biden even took office, he said they were going to have open borders. That was an open invitation to everybody who wanted to come to America saying, you need to go. Go now. This is the time. They have open borders. They're letting everybody in. And if you watch the timeline, the more Trump says they have open borders on television, the more the surges go up. You can literally, like, there's tons of people out there with timelines where they show that he is almost definitely the reason for the massive surge. Compiled with a bunch of other things, like the fact that there was the COVID inflation, the United States was the first to recover. All these other countries are already having a bunch of other issues. Like, there are a ton of compounding reasons for why this happened, but those just created incentives for why people would want to leave. The reason they probably actually did take the chance to come to our borders was probably because they were being told the borders were wide open.
Or at least it did a non-zero amount of damage. Yeah, I wouldn't say, they all would have stayed home if they didn't hear that, but yeah, telling everyone, hey, our nation is weak and you can get right in probably doesn't fucking help.
True.
Yeah, well, they do what they can to set themselves up for success, and it would seem that. Did you guys know that the two biggest surges in DSA membership were Trump's first term and Trump's second term? There were lulls in the 90s. There were like 8,000 people in the 80s, and then when Clinton took office and things were good for the left and the wall fell and no more USSR, things stayed pretty stagnant up until just before Obama's second term was up, and then obviously Bernie Sanders came in and bolstered their popularity a lot. But really, it was after Donald Trump was elected that there was like 1,000 members, and they went from like 6,000 to 8,000 or like 9,000 or something like that. And then over the course of the next 5 years, they climbed to 94,000 members. After that, when Biden took office, they dropped by 30,000. And then when Trump took office again, they eventually exceeded over 120K.
Yeah,
so
now they're getting their biggest foothold in the actual government that they've ever had, and there's an irony here, where a lot of the extremist right says, hey, we wouldn't have been so extreme if you guys weren't so oppositional about trans rights and different woke issues. And I always found that kind of hollow. But now that you put it in this perspective, I was radicalized to the left during the first or the second Bush presidency, the first and second George Bush Jr., Bush the second presidencies. That's when I got pushed into reading Manufacturing Consent. And it seemed so plausible when you saw those two wars that he had started, and his vice president was a shill for Halliburton, and they were handing off the contracts. It's so believable, the fringe criticisms of the opposite side when that side is in power, because you have something that you can latch it onto. Now,
sure. I would say,
yeah.
I would say on that real quick, because people play this trick sometimes. I'm not saying you're playing a trick.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say like, oh, well, like, aren't you just doing the same thing that they're doing when you say something like that? And it's like, well, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people can radicalize you, but it's not because, people are misrepresenting what they're doing. They're doing propaganda. Like the Iraq and Afghanistan war, those were real things.
Yeah.
They were catastrophes. They were really fucking bad. To say, like, as far as I'm aware, now I'll hedge and be honest, I haven't seen the Biden healthcare workers that are abducting 3-year-olds and forcibly transitioning them or whatever. Maybe they're out there and I just haven't seen them yet. But like, there's a difference between people being radicalized because of actual fake shit versus like, this is a thing that happened and it like super pushed me in the other direction,
Yeah.
I mean, fuck that. I'm straight up say I've debated so many fucking moderates who were out here defending Donald Trump the whole time, but every time I'm like actually pushing them on how bad he is, they're like, well, I mean, Obama, dude, Obama was so far left that he kind of pushed everybody to vote for Trump. So it's really the left's fault that everybody voted for Trump in the first place. So fuck it. I say over and over that if they're going to cry about the DSA and all the socialists and everything, I keep saying that's y'all's fault. You guys voted for Trump. You guys pushed everybody so far left. That's on you.
Hit them with their own hypocrisy. Absolutely. All right. Well, we have one last scroll for the game tonight.
And Stephen, this one is for you, if you wouldn't mind, sir.
Fundamentally, billionaires should be illegal. The Rothschild-Epstein class has reigned over the proletariat for too long by stealing all of their labor. No one man should have the power to invest $300 million in a presidential election.
Stephen,
don't lose your $7,000 by Steelmanning this one.
This is the easiest one in the world to Steelman. If you look back at the history of the United States, we had white landowners were basically the only people that could vote. When we had our bicameral legislature set up for the Senate, it was literally just the state assemblies would literally choose the senators for each state. It wasn't even done by popular vote. And then today we still don't have a popular vote, but states have tried to move more in the direction of, well, the citizens can vote and then we'll give our electoral votes to the president in order to determine who the winner is in our state, how our state will vote. Even though they didn't have to in the past, the electors could just vote on their own. Everything we've done historically in the United States seems to have moved away from a centralization of power to within one particular class, to move away from that and then to kind of distribute the power to the people. The idea that, especially after Citizens United, if it is the case that we've determined that money is a form of speech, that money allows us to exercise speech in some way, then how could we possibly be okay undoing all of the decentralization of democratic power in the past to now centralizing it into just a few figures that not only command a huge arsenal of cash that they can throw at races to determine the outcome of those races, depending on how close they are, to also controlling the massive platforms that we communicate on. So freedom of speech is not only under attack because they have a disproportionate influence on our elections with all of the money that they have, money that they've made, by the way, off the backs of all of the people working for them who don't have the same speech power that the people that are exploiting them have. They also have the ability to spend and influence on these elections. Wait, there was another point I had. They have the power to spend and influence on these elections in ways that they shouldn't. There's a centralization of power. And they have more speech, I guess, than the rest of us, because after Citizens United, they've ruled that money is speech. So I just don't understand how you can ever think that people who have made their entire fortunes capitalizing off of the labor of other people should be allowed to turn around and then dictate to all of those other people by spending huge sums of money what their political system ought to be.
Yeah, it's downright logical that money has a lot of power within our system here. But how much of that do you think is true? Do you think making billionaires illegal is the answer, or what do you think is the right way to deal with that? Or maybe you don't think it's a problem. I don't know.
I feel like the issue with the thing I don't like about populism is it casts some group of people as an enemy, and then you have to try to destroy the enemy. And I think sometimes there are problems that exist in society, but they're byproducts of other things. And if we target just the bad man, you don't actually, I think, get at the problem. So one conversation that I think we really need to have in the United States right now is that as time has gone on, it really does seem like capital earnings are disproportionately running away from W-2 self-employed earnings. And I mean, not only does owning capital just give you so much ability to make money because of how huge these businesses are, it literally has a preferential tax treatment. Your capital gains rates are so much lower than your ordinary income rates, such that a guy making $300,000 in capital gains is paying effectively, I don't know when it even goes up to 25% or whatever, it's 20% or whatever, and a guy making $300,000 of his on just W-2 earnings might be paying an effective tax rate of 40%, depending on what state you're in. It could be as high as 50%. So I think that we have to address the disproportionate earning potential of capital related income. And it might be that billionaires maybe won't exist as a byproduct of addressing that, but the targeting of billionaires, rather than fundamentally reassessing that relationship between capital and labor, just ends up giving us a whole bunch of really stupid prescriptions like wealth taxes or rent control or the decommodification of housing, stuff that won't really fix any of these problems and they're super difficult to implement. They are never going to find political consensus, and in places that have tried these things, they've never even worked out that well. So yeah, that's my issue, I guess.
Tom, how do you feel about billionaires? Do you think we should have them?
I
Should
mean,
get rid of
kind
them?
of similar to what he was saying. I more in favor of like trying to help the people who need the help the most and making sure that like we're getting money where it needs to go, finding the gaps within capitalism and filling them in. It's not as much that I don't think billionaires shouldn't exist or that I'm as much worried about the wage gap as I am just worried about making sure that working people are capable of paying their bills and being able to feed their families. And I think that part of that is obviously going to be taxing billionaires. It's going to be giving workers more rights. It's going to be raising minimum wage. And maybe as the process of trying to make sure that the money needs to, or that the money's going where it needs to go, maybe part of that process is that there are just no more billionaires, that they don't exist anymore because we're actually, making sure money is divided a bit more equally. But it's not because I have a goal of stopping billionaires from existing. It's not that I have some sort of vendetta against billionaires. It's more so that I want to make sure that the working class is capable of getting what they need.
James, you're communist. Do you have a vendetta against billionaires?
No, this is very much. It's not the fact that billionaires exist that is the problem. It is like our guests are saying. It's the outcome of the fact that they end up having so much excess power. You could either get rid of billionaires directly to remove that power, or you could fix the mechanisms in society that allow them to abuse that power. And I think we're going to get a lot farther if we do it that way, where we just try and like nip and tuck things around the edges, probably increase taxes to promote general welfare and close the loopholes and the systems that allow them to get too much power. Instinctively I do feel like Destiny was saying, it's not about targeting them directly. It's that as a consequence of these other things, increased taxation that makes sense, that isn't targeted in the wrong way, that will, sort of indirectly abolish them rather than just like rah take down billionaires.
Yeah, it seems like philosophically being against billionaires entirely leads to some negative sentiment that does not bode well for the health of our society. But there are some very unfortunate byproducts of people having quite so much money and power in our system, and it would be nice to have a check against that. But with that, we'll bring this segment to an end. Thank you so much to our guests for your spirited Steelmen there. And with that, our show comes to a screeching halt, as James has some words that he... All right, Tom, you were on our show recently where James read his famed essays. How would you describe the experience of sitting through one of these to Stephen here?
If you need to take a bathroom break, now's probably the time.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. James.
Why don't you tell me how you really feel, you son of a... All right, fuckers, it's not my fault that your broken, ADHD-riddled, instant gratification child brains can't handle a 2-minute speech with some goddamn substance in it, okay? The 21st century has made you all weak, and this world is about to fall the fuck apart if we can't find a handful of you self-indulgent fucks to take time away from scrolling Twitter to be useful for once in your goddamn lives, okay?
Destiny, people are telling me you don't have the panel on your screen.
Can't just walk.
Oh, it's just his. Oh, sorry, that was my fault because he had the thing up. Go ahead.
All right. So, oh fuck, my cat just jumped on something and closed my essay.
Oh boy.
All right,
that's unfortunate.
All right. So, I've written a goddamn essay, and you're gonna sit and listen with your permission,
Christ.
of course. Destiny, Tom, would you like to hear my essay?
So much.
Is this the essay portion of the show? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Beautiful. A respectful, a man who has taste and patience. All right.
God help us all.
And so it begins. The best of all tomorrows is made up of a million tiny decisions we won't ever observe. It is unlikely we will attain it, but if we have the courage to try, we might succeed in attuning our senses to perhaps 10,000 of those million minutiae. An abysmal success rate, no doubt, yet those 10,000 virtuous moments might be the difference between calamity and triumph. Here in this very audience tonight, or perhaps on this very stage, may be the heart and mind whose destiny, yay wink, is to save this nation from ruin. Through 10,000 tiny virtuous actions, someone here, now, listening to my voice, might inspire a generation to fight for truth, justice, and compassion. Or one of you little fucks will cause in 1 or a dozen or 10,000 careless collective imperfections to stack one after another until they become the final straws that cripple the back of fate. One of you little fuckers is gonna fuck everything up. I, for one, am glad that it's not my fucking problem. I've given up. Too much to worry about, I say. I'm just one man, I say. I'm frail, simple, flawed. I live in ignorance, as do we all, in limited sense perception. The world around us is sound and fury and shadow, and we sit in our collective goon cave, strapped to our cuck chairs, staring at the flickering shadows on the wall and wonder what it all means. We bleed and shit and die. Anyways, the world is too much, so I worry not for the best of all worlds. Instead, I do what I can. I engage with the 10,000 truths I can recognize, and I apply myself to them with every ounce of will I can marshal. With passion and love, devotion, recognizing the care that delicate, wonderful things require. And with such care and devotion, I've seen those flowers bloom. I've seen strangers become friends, neighbors, and family. Allies in life towards mutual happiness, fuck you, Tom, and prosperity. In my life, I've seen the wisdom in the parable of the starfish thrower. 1,000,000 starfish washed upon the shore. An old woman walks along and sees a young boy picking up the starfish, throwing them back into the sea, one after another, again and again. Sees the vast infinity of the starfish along the shore going for miles and miles. Recognizing the futility of the boy's quest, says, "Young man, you know there's no way you're going to save all these starfish. You're not making a difference." And he turns to her with just the smuggest, most self-satisfied smile you've ever seen and says, "Well, it made a difference to that one." As the warrior scholar Nasus of Shurima once spoke, "Errant words may fell empire." Thanks. That's my day.
All right. Well, it was fun
was
having
amazing.
a show.
That was so good.
Oh, you liked it? You actually okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was amazing.
That's
You're not
different
bullshitting
from
me?
how people felt last time and the time before and every other time before that. I like that you kept the insults towards Tom to a minimum this time. I'm sure Tom appreciated that as well. Yeah, great. Well, Steven, I'm curious if you have any thoughts about what you were just forced to endure there.
I thought it was beautiful, and I thought it was touching, heartbreaking, one might say. And I hope I get to experience it again in my life at some point.
Futility of man.
Yeah.
Dear
Futility
God.
of life. Tough world out there.
I did not expect anybody saying, hey, let's do that again. That was wonderful. But you know what? I'm glad that didn't kill the show, because I was kind of worried that would be happening. But perhaps the show should move on to the actual conversation that we've been planning on having. We've been talking about the DSA on the left for a while now, particularly online. There's been some very legitimate concern with certain candidates who have grown to prominence, and thankfully it seems like we filtered out some of the worst of that. I know Francesca Hong is not going to be she's not going to have a chance at becoming the governor of Wisconsin, so that's welcome relief for anybody who would prefer that we not have such cringe politicians. I'm curious, though, with the primaries mostly done, where are our concerns now with the DSA? Tom, why don't you start us off? Where are your concerns right now with the DSA?
Book 1 was crazy, bro.
All right,
Well,
Destiny.
What did you say? Woke 1 was crazy?
Book 1.
How was that responsive to the question? What?
That was I think AOC's response to what she thought about Hong.
Yeah,
Woke
yeah.
one was crazy.
Oh,
Sure.
gotcha. Okay.
I obviously DSA, like I think my overall fears are not just like with the platform. I think a lot of people misunderstand like the fact that there is a national DSA and then a bunch of charters, and the fact that like just because somebody is part of DSA doesn't mean that they necessarily endorse the national platform, which is the one that we all hear about, where we see the co-chair on Fox talking about the fact that they want to abolish the Senate, they want to make the president have to listen to Congress, that they want to get rid of borders, like they want the government to own all of the large corporations. Like that stuff is the national DSA. All of the charters are not necessarily in favor of that. I would assume there's some sort of voting process to where the majority of charters are likely in favor of that. But just because somebody says, hey, I come from the NYC DSA charter, doesn't mean that the NYC DSA charter is in favor of that. And even if they were, it doesn't mean that that candidate's in favor of it. My issue is not just that platform. It is the term socialism to me. If you're going to continue using this, but I don't know what you mean by socialism. You don't seem to know what you mean by socialism. This is exactly what it is that we've always seen with the alt-right pipeline and all sort of like radical pipelines where people become more and more extreme, is that especially if they buy into the label. This is what I feel like I've seen under Trump with nationalism, where they watch somebody like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk keeps saying, yeah, I'm a nationalist. Donald Trump says, yeah, I'm a nationalist. So a lot of people start saying, yeah, I'm a nationalist. And then they hear, hey, guys, this is a nationalist policy. And they're like, well, that's a nationalist policy. Well, I'm a nationalist. I'm supposed to be in favor of that. So I love that policy now. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening here, where a lot of people, they start saying, yeah, I'm AOC. She's a democratic socialist. And Bernie Sanders, he's a democratic socialist. So that means I'm a socialist too. I like those people. So I like socialism. And then now they start hearing more and more ideas that are, we want the workers to own the means of production, which I don't think is really what like democratic socialism is about as much as it is like incrementalism to eventually get to where there's some state controlled version of things like a central committee aspect. But I do think that even that goal, I'm not super in favor of that goal either. And then on top of that, I don't like the idea of people being radicalized into more and more socialist ideas because they're starting to buy into the tribe of socialism. That is what I see. That's what I'm more afraid of. And that is the normalization of this is what I'm more against. So I'm ready to bring back McCarthyism.
Fair enough. Yeah, you speak to something very real. The gradual normalization of more extreme policies is made a lot easier by that adjacency that comes from people who just want free healthcare, tuition-free colleges. Those on their surface don't seem quite so destructive as some of the other things that DSA are currently advocating for. Stephen, I'm curious where your main concerns with DSA are right now.
Yeah, so like there's an issue that I have with DSA on 3 different levels. So the first is going to be ideological. I don't mind having an ideological difference with somebody. It seems to be fight over it, which I think is fine. But I would argue the second level that I have an issue with is a subversive level, where they present as something they're not. They present as progressives. They present as people who just want healthcare, but they're actually trying to do this like the weird Marxist stuff. So the majority of your DSA members don't even know what somebody like me would mean when they say, like, oh, I think you guys are kind of, you know, it's kind of weird. You guys are like communists or socialists, but not like socialists like you want the government to do things, but like you're going for some kind of like revolution overthrow of the capital class of the United States in a really radical way. Even DSA members probably, most DSA aligned people online probably don't know what that means. I don't know, maybe dues paying members should have a better idea. And then the third issue obviously has to do with the general electability of Democrats, to where the more radical DSA people, a great example of this is the co-chair of the DSA, who's been running around and doing these insane interviews where it's just the craziest bullets that she's biting. But she can bite these bullets because it doesn't hurt her movement. It doesn't hurt the DSA. It only hurts the Democratic Party. And I think they're going to work against us a lot in the general. I think they're going to advocate for different issues that we care about and they don't care about. Or that they care about and we don't care about. And yeah, I think it's going to hurt overall the overall electability of Dems. I think a lot of my concerns would be alleviated if we genuinely could fight against them. But the fact that we're not allowed to fight against them makes me fear the ideology a lot more, because I don't know if they're genuinely winning an ideological war or if they're winning like this propaganda war that they're going to angle into a more ideological one at a later point. And the electability
because they're fighting with the Democrats with their hands tied behind their back, sort of, right?
Yeah. And then other Dems are saying we have to keep it hard on their back, yeah. And then I don't think the electability issues would be as big of a deal if we were having these genuine fights in public, because, I mean, all the information would be out there. It's not like you're going to be running in the general, and now Republicans are pulling a whole bunch of attack ads that we weren't allowed to run in the primaries, you know?
Yeah, the risk of infecting the entire party and making it so that we can all be attacked for what the most extreme version of a DSA member might be is certainly concerning as we try and get ourselves out of this Trump hole that we've been stuck in for a while. But James, my understanding is that your concerns about DSA, or at least how it came to be, are slightly differently targeted. Do you want to take a second to speak your piece about what you think?
Sorry, clarify what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, I know that we've talked about your concern about the state of the media being what allows the DSA to rise to power. I mean, presumably your concerns might not be necessarily geared towards that, but I wanted to give you some time to speak about your concerns of the DSA and why you think that they're such a problem.
I mean, yeah, nobody's more disappointed about the DSA and the state of conversations about socialism and communism than someone who supports socialism and communism and isn't a fucking idiot. Because, like, you know, I believe in some far off, like, communist state 500 years from now, but I believe it's, like, built up of rational decisions that we can actually see progress in today. And the way out is through. It's not by abolishing all of the systems that we have today. It's about incrementally improving them. You know, like Marx. There's several times where Marx celebrates the liberalism improving upon the past systems. You know, part of his historical analysis is saying, like, the time was right for feudalism to evolve into capitalism because there was enough power outside of that feudal thing, enough economic energy that couldn't be controlled by one source, and so a new system had to come forth. And the way that I think that we build towards, you know, a system, I'm not aiming for just like the abolition of capitalism and the abolition of hierarchies. It's about the abolition of the exploitation of people and about the abolition of unjust hierarchies. And I just see the popular movement of socialism today as just an outgrowth of populism and selling easy, quick solutions that you know, they sound great. You know, no human is illegal. God, I love that. Like, the sentiment behind that is beautiful. It's you know, we need to give a space for everyone to flourish no matter what their background is. And, like, that's something we can all get behind. But the way it's applied, the way that people apply it in this just like maximum way to, you know, to avoid having to deal with any of the realities of the world. Like, if you are going to make room for everyone in your society, that's going to bring a lot of difficult changes that you're probably not going to be ready for. And I think today's populist DSA movement is an outgrowth of the independent media and its attempt to capture people, not because it has noble goals, but because it's trying to capture just its own energy, and people like Hassan are just sort of leeches off of the attempts for normal people that are watching Hassan and these socialists that just want a better world, and they get to promise them this cheap, simple solution that isn't gonna work, and it probably won't even get them fucking elected in the first place. It'll get them elected in some odd elections in extremely blue areas like New York and whatnot, California, but all that's going to do is like erode it in the future. And so I really wish that socialists could get behind, you know, supporting incremental solutions that aren't perfectly aligned with their goals, but that give the center and the right and the far right like proof that we can do. Like, this is why I was even willing to listen to the abundance agenda. Like, there is a huge rational space there for socialists to prove that they've got good ideas by first getting the center on their path, on their side. And I'm worried that there's no way around this media landscape and the way it's just swallowing everything for its own its own means.
I think with a lot of what's happening, like with somebody like Mamdani, I'm not against Mamdani or his agenda just because he calls himself a democratic socialist. Like, I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. I hope, freezing the rent is actually beneficial long term, though I don't see it right now. Like, if it actually benefits people, that would be great. But it is more so the long-term consequences that I'm worried about. I don't think that Hassan in and of himself is super influential, but I do know that more and more, especially young people, get a lot of their news from social media, and TikTok is one of the top places where people are getting their news from. And again, when you get on TikTok, it is just the most radical voices from both sides. It's the most radical voices from the right. It's the most radical voices from the left. We've been talking a lot about like Jola in his TikTok over the last week. And it is true.
Times, yeah.
There's no fucking incentive on there to give reasonable takes or like moderate takes. You don't get any fucking views. Like, there is no incentive there. And I do think that eventually it's probably incumbent upon more moderate voices. I think Brian Tyler Cohen has done a good job of this with Chorus, but it is incumbent upon like more moderate voices to be the ones to kind of drive people towards content creators that are the more moderate voices, to make sure that there is actually an incentive for people to go and watch these things, to push it and boost it in the algorithm, to make it to where it is more likely that people are going to see these things and see the debunks about what it is that, people on their side are saying, because otherwise they're more likely to just be stuck in their own echo chamber and then going into the comments with all of their people to just rip on somebody who ever says something other than what they're supposed to say.
So what do you think we're going to have to do to get past all of this, right? How do we get past this media environment that just sells rocket fuel and explosive nonsense? Like, part of the way that we're trying to design this show here is to, get some of that rocket fuel, but use it to create better conversations. Are we gonna succeed despite how cringe we are? Is there any way forward through that? What do you guys think? How do we get past the current media landscape? How do we fix it? I'm not hearing answers. There's no way. We're doomed. We're fucking doomed, okay?
My big thing was you have to get rid of the any kind of recommended algorithm that you don't prompt. So like if you're searching for something, then find, obviously the whatever algorithms have to do their job to recommend you the content they think you want. But if you're not prompting it, if you're not asking for certain content, I don't think it's good that the algorithm is giving you stuff. Like, so the For You pages where you can just infinitely scroll on stuff, I feel like that's the thing that is like singularly destroying people's brains.
Yeah. It seems like
before, generally the idea that people always come with, if in order for us to like actually get past these things, is Democrats, especially moderate Democrats, establishment Democrats, they have to succeed. And this is one of the conversations that a lot of people are having about court packing right now, is they're saying, well, as long as Democrats keep winning, then everybody will keep voting for them, and then the Republicans will never have a chance to come back and court pack back, and then we won't be in this oscillation of going back and forth. My issue with that entire thought process of saying, though, that like Democrats have to win, they have to do good things while they're in power, I feel like that happened. I feel like we just went through fucking 4 years of Joe Biden getting big package after big package after big package, getting it through with a very slim majority and getting bipartisan support over and over and over and over. And this is during one of the probably hardest times in my lifetime for somebody to be a president, while he's coming in right after January 6th, an attempted coup from Donald Trump. He's having to deal with the majority of the rollout of vaccines and dealing with the majority of the inflation from COVID. Like, he is dealing with so many massive, once-in-a-lifetime issues all at once, while still being so effective and efficient at getting legislation through. And I feel like that should have won over the population, except he was fucking old and he was Sleepy Joe. And so, open borders and but like even the inflation is his fault. Like, it feels like eventually there just is no winning as long as people are allowed to incessantly lie with no punishment for that. They're incentivized to continue lying, and they're helping get their president back in office. So I think even I don't know what the answer is, because it almost feels like what everybody calls authoritarianism, where you censor people for lying on the internet during COVID. I almost feel like, I don't know, man, like that might be what we have to go back to in order to tell everybody to shut the fuck up every time they're spewing some bullshit. Like, I don't know what the answer is outside of that.
Yeah, I don't know if we should call it censorship for it to be illegal to blatantly and maliciously lie constantly over and over again. I think we've let that creep into our conversation that any amount of tamping down on information or claims is censorship, when in reality, like, it's bad and should be illegal for you to blatantly lie about, over and over these, RFK with his different claims about health and things. But it does give them some ammunition to say, hey, they're censoring us. So which one do we fear more? That our tamping down on the misinformation will be called censorship, or that the misinformation itself spreads?
I think something that's very hard for Americans to understand. There's a thing I said earlier where they're like, there are certain concepts, but they have baked into them like other assumptions. And when those other assumptions start to falter, the concept itself is no longer good. The reason why we have freedom of speech is because we don't want like the government to stamp out certain perspectives, because we don't want there to be like this overlord control of what we're allowed to say. And the reason why we want this is because we feel that in a society where as many people can contribute to a conversation as possible, that the best ideas through the marketplace of ideas training will eventually rise to the top, and then we'll all kind of like move on an aggregate level towards these things. One of the big issues today, though, and I hate this because I do genuinely identify with and believe strongly in the concept of freedom of speech. If I hear somebody invoke the concept of freedom of speech, I'm instantly going to assume that they're doing it because they want to lie with impunity. Because more often than not, that's just what it's for, is people are like, well, I should have the freedom to say whatever I want. And this is why if you eat hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, not only is it going to cure your cancer, it's going to make you immune to every disease ever. And who knows where Jordan Peterson is, but he's probably dead. Like that, just like the amount of like misinformation that's being spread about like mold and COVID stuff and government stuff and the war in Iran and every single thing online. And the defense for all of it is always like, well, it's freedom of speech. Who's going to decide what's right or wrong? And people act like when you say that, it's like this huge mic drop moment where it's like, oh, is the government going to decide? It's like, okay, no, I guess the algorithms can decide then, or what? The audience can decide what's right or wrong?
The profit-driven corporation media landscape, yeah.
Yeah, or the profit-driven alternative media person who's making seven figures, selling anti-establishment slop to their audience. Who's to say they're going to be any more honest than a mainstream media corporate overlord sellout person? So yeah, so I think something has to change to where we have more accountability. I don't know if like journalist needs to become like a protected title, like an accredited title that you have to earn and you be held accountable for lying in a special way. Like if you're like a CPA, like if you're an accountant or if you're a doctor, you have like, or a lawyer, you've got like special responsibilities. But something has to change because the algorithmic stuff doesn't necessarily favor what's true. It just favors what people like to consume the most, and they don't necessarily like to consume true information.
Yeah, something needs to have
real
teeth.
Quick, can I go backwards a little bit? Because Destiny, you were talking about the fact that you're more worried about the subversive nature of like what it is that the DSA candidates are doing. And obviously a lot of people have been making a big deal about the fact that you said that you don't know that you would choose AOC over Vance. Obviously I've laid out, like when it comes to DSA, they have the campus and they have the DSA initially was set up to make sure that they didn't have any authoritarian communists, Marxist Leninists in their organization. That was like they literally had rules that if you were an authoritarian, they would kick you out. About 5 years ago, they voted to get rid of that rule. And then now, over the last 5 years, it's been very clear that they've been getting taken over by more and more authoritarian people, and that it's becoming more and more popular within the DSA, that more and more just straight authoritarian Marxist-Leninist charters. And when I'm talking about the subversive nature of somebody like AOC, I would worry about AOC as well, but mainly because she keeps endorsing DSA candidates. She got 4 DSA candidates elected to the New York Assembly. Her and Mamdani literally worked together, where Mamdani, because she's in Congress, he got 3 people elected to Congress, but he can't run against people in the state. So she's in Congress. She doesn't endorse the congressional candidates, but she did endorse the state candidates and got 4 elected to the state assembly. And so they're literally working together to get more DSA candidates in there. And my worry is that once you get these incumbent DSA candidates, they're likely to be more extreme as well. And they're likely to get more and more extreme people in who are likely to be the campists and the authoritarians. And that this is the process that we go down. So especially if somebody is a president and they're able to get, endorse somebody for more and more congressional positions, that they are more powerful to really put in the more extreme factions of the DSA. So when you say the subversive nature and you say you don't know if you would want to vote for somebody like AOC, what do you mean by that? Like, what does that look like?
Well, I think basically what you just said. Yeah, that's my fear is that there's kind of like an intentional plan to kind of take over the Democratic Party using these using these strategies. Like that's my biggest fear. So
Okay.
my biggest issue is that there's no inoculation with moderate Dems to push back against any of it. Like that's my biggest fear. Like people always wanted to take over a party or do whatever, but like I just don't see anybody in the lib left that's capable of identifying it and then pushing back against it. So they have like this perfect environment set up right now where they can continue to move our discourse further and further left on our politics. But anytime we try to hit back against them, even the primaries, people just say like, don't punch left MAGA as the threat. Meanwhile, they're like exclusively centered on attacking Dems. It's frustrating.
Well, the reason that people say that they want to vote DSA candidates in is because they say that they actually want free healthcare, or, you know, the things that they're looking at for the, you know, they want immigration reform. Like the things that they want from these DSA candidates seem to me the normal Democrat platform. Like this is what all Democrats want. All Democrats want some form of free healthcare. They want like a public option, or maybe even Medicare for all or something like that, but mostly a public option. And they're putting in these candidates that are running on these platforms. So when I watch somebody like Jon Ossoff, who is more of a moderate when it comes to the way that he votes and the way that he legislates, but he uses the more populist rhetoric, I really like him. He's my senator. But I also wonder, does he keep lending credibility to those people? And if we vote for somebody like him for president, is he going to go and endorse the DSA type people because they're using the same rhetoric as him? Or does his rhetoric make those people more popular and win them like more credit? Like, what do you think about somebody like Jon Ossoff in a position like that?
Like, I don't think Ossoff is doing any of it intentionally. So I think that Ossoff is like fine to message in these ways because it's good to message in this way because it gets people to support. Like there are parts of well, this is the strength of like how like the subversive aspect works, right? Is that there are parts of their messaging that are really popular. A lot of people do want something to happen with healthcare. A lot of people do think there are affordability issues in the United States. And when the DSA is kind of in their more mask on moments, then they'll talk about these things. So I don't think we have to stop talking about every single thing the DSA talks about because the DSA is intentionally leveraging these things against us. I just think we need to be aware of.
Well, it's the Epstein class rhetoric. It's the, you know, top down rhetoric. It's the
Epstein
sorts
class
of
is probably like that's like the final thing. That's like probably my line is like maybe right after that. Because I mean, like in a way I get it because man, dude, the Republicans made such a big deal out of the Epstein shit. It is pretty funny that they completely fucking abandoned it, you know? And so, you know, I don't know if I would say we have to walk away completely from the Epstein class messaging, but like everything else obviously just becomes a huge. The problem with messaging like the Epstein class is that I think most of the people that hear that think that it impacts Democrats and Republicans the same. That's my biggest issue is people who are singularly motivated by like Epstein stuff think that the Dems and the Republicans are equally as bad as each other on those issues. And that's the thing that I think we have to really push back against.
But I think Ossoff does message like that. Like he kind of talks about the elites. He talks about the people in power.
A little bit, but I think it's usually more MAGA focused and MAGA targeted when I hear him talk about it. And the sloppulous guys, your DSA types, I think, are generally more like both sidesing things, which I think is scarier.
One of the
or Kyle.
Oh,
I'm hosting the show now, so I'm handing it over to you now.
Nice.
Yeah, go ahead.
I greatly appreciate that. Yeah, one of my big concerns, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it's clear that anytime Republicans are in power, it's really good for the DSA. They had every incentive to not endorse anybody in the last election. Just say, I think what they actually said was, this choice sucks, we'll see you in the next one, or something like that.
Voters shouldn't have to choose between these two. Yeah, is what they said. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that puts any Democrat who wants to push back.
Uh-oh.
Absolutely destroyed. Holy shit. Tom disconnected and he was so sick of that guy talking. He was like, fuck this dude.
Oh, yeah.
This is Tom's show now.
Uh-oh.
Oh, my God.
My show now.
All right. Well, while we work on getting Kyle.
Well, have you guys heard that I invented? Well, have you guys heard mobile detailing? Oh. Is he back?
Kyle? Your cameras were.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Your face is frozen.
That's a start. You know what? I'll work on that. And I'll let you guys talk while I fix that problem.
All right. Beautiful. I'll try and recenter us a little bit on. I'm worried about the sort of less engaged voters that end up supporting the DSA types because of their general appealing message. You know, when they do that more shallow, the Mott or the which one's the easy one, the Mott or the Bailey? Fucking knows. Nobody knows.
The
Anyways,
Bailey.
when they're okay.
Who uses either of these words? But I know what you're saying. You have you put out like an easy to defend argument, but in reality, your position is far more radical. Right?
Yeah, the general economic populism or the fighting for the working class that Mamdani uses very effectively, but I think actually pointed towards meaningful solutions. There's a lot of people that are getting swept up in that, and for understandable reasons. You know, the working class has been losing ground since the 70s to some degree or other. You know, it goes up and down. Things have been very tough for the working class lately. So I'm very worried about how when we engage in these topics, we might alienate those people. And also I'm worried about creating something of a Streisand effect where the Democrats' opposition to the DSA and the economic populists will make us seem sort of like the Epstein class, the establishment that controls things, and it's wielding its unfair power to squash this movement that's trying to create itself. What is there some rationality to that? And what are the lines for engaging in this arena without alienating those voters and without cutting off the wrong kinds of people?
I think it has to be
I would
similar
say-
rhetoric to what it is that they're doing. Because if every time you attack them, they say it's because you don't want free healthcare, or you don't want to help the workers, or you don't want good things. I think that we literally just have to turn around with the same types of rhetoric and say that you don't want Democrats to win, you don't want to stop MAGA, you don't want to defeat Trump, you don't want we have to have the same types of rhetoric as we did with Hassan when he didn't vote. Everybody was saying, "Hey, you're helping MAGA, you're helping Trump win." I think that the problem is that I think that we actually have more nuanced beliefs that, especially within the streaming world, we take a lot of time to go through the philosophical thought process and grounding these things, and to synthesize those things into thought terminating cliches. It's hard. It's hard when you actually do put a lot of thought behind what it is you believe and try to justify this as much as possible. And then you're supposed to just turn that into a nothingness claim that you throw out over and over. That's a hard thing for people to do, especially in this space. But I do think that as far as strategy goes, we also, if we're going to be politically effective, we have to learn that is kind of necessary at the same time.
Yeah, I think actually, I don't think running away from it is the strategy. I know sometimes it's tempting and it might be cringe to hear people use similar rhetoric, but I think the big issue is that if you let them take over your talking points, there's this really annoying thing I've noticed where leftists do this thing where they take credit for every good thing that liberalism has ever produced, and then every bad thing that liberalism has produced, they pawn off on liberalism. So they'll say things like the 5-day work week came from socialism, or the 40-hour 40-hour work week came from socialism, minimum wage was a socialist idea. All these good things that we have come from socialism, or NASA or some of our public programs. But then for our private stuff, they'll either say it's all horrible and terrible, or they'll say, well, it's just general research that allowed pharmaceutical companies to invent, crazy medications or therapies or whatever in the U.S. They don't give any credit to any of the good things that liberalism does. And then when it does do good things, they seize all of that as a socialist invention. So the thing that I would want to push on more, or that I would like to hear push on more, is that one, if you actually push back against the socialists in a meaningful, crazy way, then you can argue these people they're not like us, right? This guy believes that the Holodomor didn't happen, that Tiananmen Square was overly exaggerated, and that the Houthis and Hezbollah are the good guys, right? That's what this guy believes. That's crazy. But then also, when they get on here, I don't like this idea when people are well, the DSA does say, for prison abolition, this came up. They're well, the DSA does want to get rid of our high rates of recidivism. They really want to create better economic conditions so that people aren't committing crime and blah, 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 blah. And it's okay. What's the difference between that and the mainstream Democratic Party position? Why are we pretending we needed the DSA to introduce this radical talking point to us that housing should be more affordable, that indiscriminate foreign warfare is bad, that we need to do something about homeless populations, that income gaps are too high, and an average working these are all mainstream Democratic Party positions.
No one ever addressed those things until Bernie Sanders. Okay.
Yeah,
it was
Bernie started it all.
Platform.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the idea that the idea that somehow we have to give them credit for these things while they use that platform of similarity to massively attack us. I don't like that. I think that's cringe. I don't think you have to give up on the talking points. You just need to make sure that you're distinguishing yourself from them more than not, yeah.
And
Well, I do think that there's like a bit. I do find it a little frustrating because I think that we do have to fight on a bunch of different fronts. And I think that when there's going to be the people who are going to be a bit more moderate and they're going to appeal to a different group of people. I think there's going to be a people who are very staunch, like, liberals, and that they're going to be a group of people like Dean and Parker, where all they do is just shit on MAGA all day. They don't really talk about the left. They don't talk about really anything except for just how bad MAGA is. And that's an easy lane to be in, but they fire up the base. They make people feel really happy about the fact that they're liberals and they're smarter than the MAGA people and they're way more justified and moral than them. And I think that that's like a good position to play. But then I also think, Destiny, you play a position where you are also attacking the left. Hutch plays this position where I think that there has to be some sort of gatekeeping there. There has to be some sort of identity that's actually held up, where right now people keep saying, we don't know what Democrats are. We don't know what Democrats stand for. We don't even know what their platform is. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We all know what it fucking is. We just watched Kamala Harris run on a very Democrat platform. We've been watching everybody fight against the Trump administration because he's doing a bad thing and they want him to do the good thing. And they're very clear about what the good thing is, like having something like USAID or having more healthcare, where he keeps saying he's going to repeal and replace. Like, we all know what the fucking Democrat platform is. We all know what it is. And we do have to gatekeep to some extent in order for there to be an identity there. But I don't know if the people who are playing the same position as the moderate, who's kind of able to appeal to the more centrist, independent sorts of people, I don't know if we want to hate on the people who also are going to appeal to the more progressive groups of people as well. They're almost like the centrists on that edge. But this has always kind of been what I've said about this. I will say, over the last week, though, when you guys keep bringing up that some of these people that I see, they do tend to attack the moderates more than they attack the other side. So they'll appeal to them, but they're not appealing to them in a way that they're like ever going to bring them over. They're appealing them in a way that they're just helping them. And so I feel like there does have to be like a line drawn there, where if they are going to be playing that part, they're either going to be kept out as somebody who's helping them, or they got to be somebody who is like helping the other side, if that makes sense.
Alrighty. You know what? I'm going to take this moment to test my brand of communism. What do you guys think about my internal theory that to some degree the workers' revolution that Marx predicted occurred already in the United States through things like workers' rights and having a democratic system that allows us to change? Is a single fucking socialist or communist going to hear me when I make that claim? And why not?
When you make the claim, when you restate that?
I believe my functioning belief is that there has been, the United States had its revolution, its glorious revolution. We threw off we threw off King George, and then through the industrial revolutions, we had our workers' revolutions, or at least, the enough of them that we don't in America need to throw off our system entirely in order to make a better society. Do you think I will get any play with socialist types by making that argument?
I mean, absolutely not, because they're socialists and they don't want to hear that. I mean, I would largely agree with you there, because I guess my argument, but this is being woefully illiterate when it comes to the actual leftist literature. So I'm sure there are counter arguments things I'm bringing up, but my guess is back in the day, in the 1800s, the proletariat probably couldn't afford plane tickets to take a vacation to Hawaii or to send their kids to institutions of higher learning. These things were probably generally outside of the ability of a working person to do, and the working classes had more and more things made available to them as a result of, I don't know, liberalism, capitalism, industrialization, whatever you want to say. Yeah, but I mean, on the other hand, that on their counter argument, they would say that there's going to be this there's going to be this huge barrier that's always going to be thrown up between the capital class and the working class. And there are going to be irreconcilable differences that the interests of the capital class are always going to be dramatically in opposition to the interests of the working class. And that as long as politicians, ad campaigns and everything else are represented by, spent dollars and everything, that the capital class is always going to be constantly moving in a way that will benefit them. And when there's a conflict between them and the working class, are going to benefit them over the working class, sometimes to the detriment of the working class. And that the only way to separate capital from its power is to separate the owner from the machines, that the people that are actually working the machines need to be the ones that are actually making the money from doing the work. And as long as there's an exploitative class there, they're always going to have different interests, and their income and their earnings are going to be dramatically, exponentially higher than the average worker. A worker can only work so much. An owner can theoretically own everything on paper, right? So that imbalance of power is fundamentally impossible to redress, with government redistribution or whatever else. You have to actually change the ownership structure to meaningfully alter that relationship.
Sure.
Your thought process, the thing of one of the things that reasons I don't think it could ever apply to a socialist is because even over the last week, I've heard this over and over from socialists, is that the reason capitalism was created was so that they could more easily centralize money and power. Which, in order to believe that, you would have to think they couldn't do it well enough under feudalism. They weren't capable of centralizing money and power well enough under feudalism, that they had to go and create another system that made it, it's so much easier under capitalism to pick the winners and losers more effectively, that you had to get something better than that feudalism really was not as effective as picking where power was centralized. So obviously, they came up with capitalism. It's such a dumb thing that I can't believe it would ever come out of somebody's mouth, but I hear it over and over and over. I just heard somebody, I forget the guy's name, but there's a black guy who was debating David Maruccio,
racist.
The other guy.
David Mauricio, that guy's rad. That guy's rad. Great.
Yeah,
Great guy.
I like him, but over and over, this guy repeated this over and over and over and over. They're like, well, we all agree that capitalism was only created so that they could centralize power and money, and at no point did
it's almost the opposite. It's literally it was a decentralization, a relative decentralization that allowed individuals to finally have their own wealth that wasn't lorded over by lords and kings. Cringe. All right. Kyle, why don't you check DMs and let me know what you think?
I would also say, just a quick addendum to that. I don't know if you would say capitalism was necessarily created either, right? It evolved. Weren't markets and trade, these kind of sprang up over time as different conditions were met for different groups of people. But
yeah, they make it sound like it was a cabal that came together and invented it.
Right.
And I would agree that over time, this system has huge problems with capital accumulation. It really is like a monopoly game that's been going on for 200 years in some cases, right? Elon Musk didn't make his initial fortune on his own. It was inherited wealth. And over time, especially lately, it does feel like these things are spiraling to a certain degree out of control, and that's why especially once the tech bubbles started coming up, you have these people like Bill Gates that became the richest person in the world by fucking stealing Xerox's interface, and I'm not gonna completely write off what he did, but it seems like because we live in such a global society and it's such a large system, we've got 8 billion people. If you can take a penny off of each of them, once a month, you become a billionaire over time. And I do think that we definitely have to take some actions to restrain that over time. But that doesn't mean we can just take all of the tracking systems away from society, right? There has to be a way to track the use of resources. Like car insurance. Let's think about simple car insurance for a sec. If nobody had to think about car insurance and what happens if you fucking crash your car, then you're gonna drive like an asshole, right? If you've ever rented a rental car, you're not worried about a couple dings and nudges here and there. And if you expand that to everything, right? If you don't have to start caring about your apartment and the way you treat it, because you just get another free apartment after you burn that one down. Like we have to keep some sort of structure that tracks the use of resources and contributions and earning. But my goal is just to make it less painful, less difficult for struggling people, and I think that's the society we should try and build for. Yeah, but I'm just not sure how we're gonna get there.
You want good things.
Yeah,
I agree.
no,
I also
I
want
wish
good
things
things,
were
and I
better
don't
a
want
little.
bad things. I hate bad things.
Yeah, sick of them. Sick of the bad
Yeah.
things.
Sick of bad things.
All
Totally in
right.
favor of good things.
I think we might have
So-
gotten through most of the meat of what we're discussing today. Kyle, you want to?
Well, I would love to ask the question I was trying to ask earlier before the internet decided that I wasn't allowed. But I was alluding to the idea that with the Republican Party being so dangerous for the country and also so good for the DSA, is it better to wait until Democrats are in power to push back, or is it better to do it now, given that we are on the cusp of an election that could be pretty consequential, given that Peter Thiel's got his hand all the way up J.D. Vance's ass, and I really don't want President Palantir, and I'm sure you don't either. What do you think?
I mean, unfortunately, I guess we're a little bit past it. Not completely past it, but we're a little bit past it. Like, I would say that now the midterms was the time to fight, right? These elections are not as consequential, which is weird because I never thought I would say that, but compared to the last presidential election, Jesus fuck. The president is just like so unpopular now with so many different groups of people that it's not like, he's riding high on anything or some huge part of his agenda is going to be passed if he just gets, more people in office. Like, he can't do anything with his current Congress. I don't even know if he knows how Congress works. He's a fucking idiot. So I feel like if there was ever a time for us to have a fight over identifying ourselves, like as what does our party stand for? Who are we? I think that would have been now during the midterms, especially during the primaries for the midterms. During the generals, you want to definitely come together and be more unified. But I think one of the reasons why you want to fight so much more during the primaries is that you decide who is the unifying person. And what we don't want ever again, Jesus fuck, is to have these huge movements that are so influential in our media, maybe not in terms of the voters, but in the media, who are telling us not to vote for our candidates, like what happened with the uncommitted movement and Kamala Harris. That was just a disaster. How much of our political discourse was held hostage, not only held hostage by a certain topic, Israel, Palestine, but it was held hostage by a topic that our candidate was better on. Like, I'm sorry, but there's no world where Donald Trump was ever a better candidate for the Palestinians than Kamala Harris. So even if that was your single motivating issue, you should have supported the Democrat over the Republican on it. But instead, this wasn't even a factor on their side. How many fucking Republicans? There are Republicans who are motivated by their thoughts on Israel for whatever that is. But how many of them were motivated by a Palestinian genocide? None of them. I don't care about any of that shit. So it's just crazy to me that we allowed ourselves to get so purity tested on an issue that our candidate was better on regardless. I hate that.
Do you think when you say we're held hostage, what do you mean by that? Because from my understanding, none of the after polling shows that was like a major deciding factor on whether or not Donald Trump or Kamala Harris won.
No, I don't think it was. I don't think people voted on it as much, but an inordinate amount of our media attention went towards it. So much media on the Democratic side, on the alternative media sphere, in the even in the mainstream media sphere, was dedicated to this like Israel-Palestine topic that they felt like it was the genocide shit. I think it was like, this can't be right. Was it 50% of Dearborn, Michigan voters went for Jill Stein? Or was it 25? It was a huge, unbelievable
I
percentage.
think the majority of them voted for Donald Trump, though.
Did they?
Yeah.
Of the Arab population for Dearborn, Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if they did, that's just fucking
I believe
crazy.
so. If I
plurality,
remember
at least,
correctly,
I
I'm
thought
almost
went to
positive.
Jill Stein. But if they did, that's crazy. But it wouldn't surprise me again, because on our side, it feels like if like all of the media messaging towards Arabs or towards, I guess, anti-Israel people was just that the Democratic Party had nothing to say about Israel-Palestine. And it's just there's a couple of things that happen when we allow the DSA to define us. Is that one, it leads voters to think we're more radical than we actually are. But then two, if I ask you, like, what did the DSA think about Israel-Palestine or billionaires or whatever else? I think you guys can answer me that question. You just know. You would go and look at any of the far left media to figure it out. If you want to know what MAGA thinks about anything, you literally look at any of their content creators and they all have the exact same fucking answers. But when it comes to the moderate left, like the only thing the moderate left is responding to far left attacks and conservative attacks, and that's it, always, constantly. Like the moderate left has no place to where it can define itself ever, and it's just so frustrating to play that game over and over and over again. And I feel like fighting against that extreme left faction would have also allowed us to define ourselves better as a party.
I think, I mean, especially when it comes to independent media, going into the 2024 election, when I'm going through all of the major content creators who are doing politics on the right and the left, if I go to right-wing channels, they are all glazing Donald Trump the entire time. They're glazing Trump, glazing MAGA, talking about all of the, pro-MAGA politicians. They are all nonstop glazing them. And then if I turn, and then they're talking about how horrible the Democrats are, they're open borders, they're going to trans their kids, blah, blah, blah. But then I go over to the Democrat, the top left-leaning channels on the internet, and they also hate the fucking Democrats and the Republicans. But if I'm watching these two sides, at least I see a lot of really good things about Trump and MAGA from one side, but I never hear anything good about the Democrats from the other side. And so I feel like this creates like an ecosystem where Democrats just suck across the board. And I would say that like this is largely responsible for the horrible approval ratings of the Democrats after I think we've done so much over the last Biden presidency and we're able to get so many wins. But I do think throughout the Trump presidency, even with the minority, I think the Democrats have done an absolutely fucking amazing job. I think that they have fucking killed it. Every narrative war we've won across the board when it comes to Iran, when it comes to
with what?
Narrative wars, like
when?
Throughout Trump's presidency, throughout this presidency.
Sure. Yeah, I would say before the presidency, I think we had nothing, unfortunately. But I don't even know if we've. I don't even know if I would say we've won the narrative war this time. I just think Trump lost so hard by just being the most unrepentantly horrible fucking president. Just like in so many ways, it was so much worse than anybody would have ever imagined.
So many unforced errors.
Yes.
Yeah, you can only get away with so much.
I wouldn't say that we were winning those narrative wars throughout his first term until the January 6th and all those other things. Like obviously COVID is when things turned around. But I think throughout this entire presidency, at each lockdown, we won those narrative wars, or if you want to call them battles, we won the stuff on COVID, we won the stuff on the lockdowns, inflation, the Iran war, Epstein, like every major narrative war that has happened throughout his presidency. I think Democrats have come out far and away on top. But
you say that, but
nobody gives Democrats credit for that. Hold on. They still keep saying Democrats won't do anything. They're the do-nothing Democrats. They're not coming out. They're not talking about this shit. They give them zero credit for any of this shit and still say they need people who are going to come in and actually fight because the Democrats won't do it. And they even got the fucking War Powers Act passed. They got the fucking War Powers Act passed under Donald Trump. Like, you got to be fucking kidding me. This is a miracle that happened. And somehow they're still saying that the Democrats don't fight. So I think there is literally nothing they can do to where they'd actually be capable of getting credit from most of these people.
Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of win the narrative war. Like, have the Democrats gotten credit for anything? And I feel like despite how unpopular Trump is and despite how much he's fucked up everything, I feel like Donald Trump is I feel like the Democratic Party is not anywhere near as popular as it should be. The popularity is I don't know if it's at all-time lows, but it's just so abysmal.
Yeah, Trump is really unpopular, but Democrats are similarly unpopular, even though they're just better on every issue. And that is a sign of us not doing as great in the narrative war. It's tough to figure out how we break through that. Alrighty. Well, I think we're going to wind down here and then start opening up. If anybody would like to call in, I don't know if we discussed having call-ins. We might take a couple calls. Alrighty. Destiny, do you have a time you'd like to get out of here? Do you have anything going on tonight, or if you want to get out of here in a minute? How long do you think?
I do, but I can. Yeah, you're good. You can do some calls.
Cool. So we will open up maybe for a couple of calls, and Kyle, in the meantime.
Sure. Head to our Discord if you want to call in and hang out with us for a bit. But while we wait for people to call in, we're going to play a game that allows us to rank certain individuals based on how we feel about them in a game that we like to call Podcaster, Prisoner, President.
Podcaster,
I hate this fucking
Prisoner.
game.
Yeah, Tom hates this game. We make him play it anyway. Hopefully, Steven, you like it a little more than Tom does. But either way, so this is the game that is very similar. It's basically Fuck, Marry, Kill, but censored.
politics, yeah.
Yeah. So we take 3 individuals and we sort them by who we would want to allow to be a podcaster. That is to say, who we would allow to have a voice big enough to reach a sizable audience, but not have any real power. Who we would sequester to prison and therefore be able to reach nobody whatsoever and be basically shut down. Or who we would allow to be the president of the United States for 1 term and therefore have all of the authority and restrictions that come with it. They would also, for the purpose of this game, have enough of a mandate to accomplish their agenda for that term, and as well as enough support in the legislature. So with that, I will pull up the characters.
Before you do real quick,
sure.
Everybody should check out our last video on this because it was great. Great time. Tom's in the video, and there's a fantastic clip. We got Tallybots to say that obviously Destiny would be their president. We had you in a round of this, and so now we've got a clip of Tally saying she wants you for president.
Sounds good. All right.
Followed by her saying Ben Shapiro should be president. So triggering in all directions, I'm sure.
So you're in good company there.
I disavow now. Forget that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
She also talking about how terrified she is of boy pussy in that one.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, lots of it.
That was a good episode. That was a good moment. Oh God, I'm gonna need some new sunglasses here.
Oh boy. Oh, nobody was
saw
supposed to
his
see
eyes.
James.
No technical
not good.
failures this time, but we have a mechanical failure.
A proper wardrobe malfunction. Haven't heard that phrase in a while. All right, enough of that. Let's get into this game. We've got our first round here. We're going to be sorting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Zoran Mamdani, the 3 most well-known, most prominent, and most powerful DSA members in America. How shall we sort these 3 as far as being podcaster, prisoner, or president?
We take turns.
I'll go first. I put AOC as president, Zoran as podcaster, and Rashida Tlaib for prison. Yeah.
Okay. What's your reasoning there?
I mean, I think AOC is going to be a bit more better of a president. I think she has a lot more experience in federal politics. I think Zoran's a great talker. He's very charismatic and good at speaking. And I think Rashida Tlaib is absolutely fucking obnoxious. So.
Fair enough. Steven,
Same.
Do you agree with Tom?
Tlaib is goodbye, easy. Mamdani as podcaster, I think is fine. It's really hard though between Mamdani and AOC as president. I'm in complete and total spite mode right now, and I honestly don't know what would trigger conservatives harder: is having like a Hispanic woman as a president, or having a fucking Mamdani Muslim dude as president. And I would go by whichever one would trigger the fuck out of them more, I think. Yeah.
I mean, there's the added layer of Mamdani not being from here. He was born. He was not a native U.S. citizen, which is counter to what we normally do.
Unconstitutional.
So that might be the
biggest triggering.
Now that would change my answer then. So so I'd definitely go with AOC then for podcaster, and Mamdani would be president, and we would just put the most bullshit fucking legal argument ever. And while they're fighting it, we would do court packing in the middle of the fight, so that by the time it got to the Supreme Court, we would have 8 justices who are all from wherever the fuck Mamdani was born, who would all rule in favor of saying that whatever place he was born in was declared U.S. territory at the time, because they found some secret fucking document that said it was like a U.S. base, and then he's actually a citizen, so he can 100%.
8 Ugandan judges. My goodness. And we'd have our very own Idi Amin. How exciting would that be, James? What do you think?
Beautiful.
Is this how you would arrange things?
I mean, Mamdani's president for absolutely. This is glorious. And
okay.
AOC can podcast from the vice presidency. Perfect. Yeah, beautiful. From inside the White House. Very good.
Well, we found some consensus with Rashida being sequestered to prison, but it would seem that between Zoran and Alexandria, whoever is most triggering to the right is who would get it if we were in charge of this.
That's
and
the
had
way.
these
God
parameters.
bless America.
Let's go on to another round here. We've got a few more people, but this time from a little bit closer to the middle. Perhaps folks who we might be more politically amenable to, generally speaking. We've got Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, and Pete Buttigieg. If these are the 3 that we're dealing with, how do we sort them? Tom, why don't you go first again?
A little bit less of a meme round, a little bit more substance.
I think I might make Pete Buttigieg president.
Yes.
Okay. President Pete.
Gavin Newsom, he's already a podcaster, so I'll make him a podcaster, and I'll send, obviously, of course, the woman to prison. Got to stay consistent.
That's a bad look. But I mean, is there anything that you find particularly unfavorable about Kamala that would put her there, or is it literally just someone has to go there?
If you look at the picture, there is a certain sound that you kind of hear from that. Yeah.
It is blood curdling. Something about it. Just any woman who's happy and having a good time. It's just upsetting.
Horrible.
Steven, how do you feel about this trio?
Oh man. I like Pete as president, and then we could have like a first man and a gay president. That would just be hilarious.
Sure. That would upset
the
right. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that would be a good one. In terms of policies and everything, I think Pete made me map on pretty well. But Gavin is similar, so I feel like I would have to. It's whoever would trigger them more, right? And then, as a podcaster, I think Pete does a good job of going around and doing podcasts, though. Kamala as a podcaster, man, I don't know.
Well, okay, so Pete's a great podcast guest. We haven't seen him host, and Gavin, I mean, he is a podcast host, and he's
already doing it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a clean transition for him if we keep that the same. Unfortunately, that still leaves Kamala in prison. I mean, do you find anything about her
and that would please the right
or?
too much, right? Seeing Kamala go to jail,
that's a good point.
They'd get their nut off of that one.
We can't let that. Yeah, that's,
you know what? I would send Kamala to jail, and it's because I harbor a grudge against her, and it was for her trying to take out my boy Biden in the primaries in 2020 when she threw him under the bus. Metaphorically in the busing debate, and I hold that against her forever.
And then our hero, Democrat legend Tulsi Gabbard, came in and set things straight. Isn't that right? James, are you amenable to this arrangement, or is there?
It hurts so bad to put poor Kamala in prison after everything she went through. Okay, like she had to spend. Nobody got done dirtier as vice president than poor fucking Kamala Harris. Making her the border czar, just making her go wave at the border and go like everything's fine, and like that's the most she got to come out as vice president and represent anything. Like
best border czar of all time.
Sure, it's kind of the vice president's job to sweep a little and like he doesn't get to make many decisions, but God did Kamala get done fucking dirty. So it hurts to put her in prison. That being said, not going to be as good of a podcaster as Gavin Newsom, and neither of them. I think Buttigieg would be a fantastic president. Maximizing for president, I easily take Pete. Easily.
You mentioned Tulsi a minute ago. Tim Pool unironically believes that Tulsi Gabbard is going to run as the Democrat and is going to sweep. Like he thinks she's a sleeper. That's why she left the administration. She's gonna be the Democrat W.
I don't know why he thinks all Democrats because I don't know if he really does believe that or if it's just a meme.
I don't know if he believes anything. Okay.
If he believes anything about it.
Maybe
that's
he's the
what
biggest
the Kremlin told
chameleon
him
in
to
the world.
say. I don't know.
Yeah, that's either way, not too hard to believe him saying something as unbelievably, blitheringly stupid as that. But it seems that we found a pretty solid consensus here with these three, so let's move on.
Well, actually, we've also got several callers. Oh my God, we've got a lot of callers.
You do.
We want to cycle through them.
We could. You know what? I'm gonna let Tom decide. Tom, you run a show. What do we do? Should we get through some of these callers?
Break up the game and let some callers in?
We get to the fucking content. We get to some disagreements. Hopefully, we get some shit out of this. Let's do away with this game as well.
Fuck you.
I hate her.
A great game. The greatest game of all time.
All right. Well, very well. I suppose we may come back to this, even though I was really looking forward to this round. But since
how many rounds were left of it?
Well, we've got 3 more.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
See, that's what I'm saying. We should break it up with callers, bring it back. We can cut it in post. Fuck, we talked about this, and I think you suggested
I would be less likely to kill myself if we did.
We could break it up a little bit. Okay,
Jesus.
yeah. Well, for Tom's mental health prioritization, we will.
All right, fine, very well. I guess we'll start churning through some of these folks who've signed up to talk to us. Shy Doomer. I saw Shy Doomer load in first, so why don't we talk to her? Shy Doomer. Hi, Shy Doomer. You are on the Marketplace of Ideas once again.
Welcome back.
Good to
Jesse,
have
you.
you.
Have to fix your stream again.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh boy.
Sorry, I was muted. Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
welcome, neighbor.
Hello.
How's it going tonight?
Pretty good. Hope everyone else is doing pretty good. I just have a question. One of you, I think, was saying how the Democrat establishment is running on the same kind of policies that let me know if I'm wrong, but the DSA is running on.
In many
I'm saying
cases,
the main things that they talk about, like a lot of times when you talk about the fact that you may not like a DSA candidate, a lot of times they will say, oh, so you don't want free healthcare, or you don't want immigration reform, you don't want it's almost all of the main things that they talk about. These are things that the Democrat establishment wants. All Democrats want these things. But then when we ask them about the other policies, when we ask them about Russia, Ukraine, when we ask them about abolishing the borders, when we ask them about abolishing the Senate, a lot of times they don't, are you a communist? They don't want to answer those questions. They'll say, I'm not running on that. But the things that they are running on are generally going to be things that Democrats all agree on.
Is that what you actually believe? Like the Democratic establishment is running on, like, abolish ICE. The Democratic establishment is running on things like universal health care. Like, that's in.
I think the majority of the Democrat establishment is in favor of abolishing ICE right now. Yeah,
it's on their platform. It's what the candidates are advocating for.
Hasn't every major candidate more or less said this? I feel like hasn't Ossoff said abolish ICE?
Yeah, and even I think Stevens, like almost everybody has said.
I'm asking about because they brought out their platform, and I read through it, and is not anywhere close to being the same. It's more of like third way.
I'm not saying the DNC platform is the exact same as the DSA platform. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the candidates, their platforms, because even though the DSA platform, the DSA candidates, they don't run on the DSA platform either. They don't say, I want to abolish the Senate. Or maybe they do. They don't say, I want to abolish borders. I want the government to take over all large corporations. Like, they're not running on the DSA platform. I'm not talking about the DSA platform versus the DNC platform. I'm talking about establishment candidates versus DSA candidates. They seem to all want the same things.
Gotcha. Whenever those establishment candidates are like already in office and they've had all this time to be advocating for these things, and now they're saying it, or like saying that they will do something like that, do you think they're being honest, or like people should trust them?
Well, I mean, the major thing that you're mentioning that there would be a difference on, because I think that they've all wanted free healthcare like since Obama, but I don't know that like I would have wanted them to say abolish ICE until now. It's the Supreme Court decisions that have come through under the Trump administration that make it to where I think it is necessary to abolish ICE. But I wouldn't have wanted them to say abolish ICE before that. That would have been a bit radical.
They weren't being abused to the same degree that they are, or being used negatively to the same extent they have been over this last. But before this administration, yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying real quick on that. I think the issue is we run into that thing before where they take talking points from us, but then also sometimes they use the same words, but they mean something different, and then it's very difficult to communicate to the voter what you stand
like what?
So before, I think when people were saying abolish ICE, when leftists are saying it, it sounds like they're saying like we shouldn't like deport people, or we shouldn't have like any immigration enforcement at all, which is not only would I personally disagree with ideologically, I don't know if that's a politically tenable position. But now we're all kind of on board with abolish ICE, not because we don't think we should have any kind of interior immigration enforcement, but because holy fuck, like ICE has been turned into a $90 billion a year Gestapo that is like serving at the personal pleasures of the president and is like just indiscriminately fucking capturing people, shipping them off to other countries, or murdering them in the streets with no accountability. So yeah.
I think there was still an argument beforehand. It's just more apparent now. We had a time before 9/11 where ICE wasn't around, and ICE was literally an outcome of 9/11. They more militarized and like policed, had like arms when it comes to immigration, and the increase of like xenophobia because of it. So I think there was still an argument for it. It's just easier to argue for it now that they're the fucking Gestapo.
I mean,
well, again, for me, it is
prior to 9/11, they didn't have ICE or whatever. Like we still had I don't know if it was Customs and Border Patrol, or whatever. We had some kind of interior
With
immigration
DHS,
enforcement.
Yeah, it was mostly paperwork
report
because that's what the crime is. It's like mostly paperwork problems. Like, hey, you didn't fill out your paperwork, or oh, you didn't.
Well, you still have to deport people who are here illegally.
Yeah, and they would use like the police to do that. Like the local police would come in and do it.
Well,
Is that
no.
is that a
pretty
preferable
sure.
state of affairs? I don't even know if that would be preferable. I'm not sure, but
No,
I just know
the
that right
police
now
are
when
never
people say
in
apologize-
charge of federal immigration. That is like
Wouldn't they,
local
like-
police are never in charge of enforcing federal laws. That's not the
But
case at all.
the federal government works with the local police to find people all the time, right? And that's what I mean.
If they choose to, that's literally
Yeah,
what the
and that's
entire
like if
thought
the- if
process
you're-
of sanctuary cities are, is that a lot of these
Mhm.
cities are saying, we're not going to ask somebody whether or not they're a citizen or not. We're not going to check their legal status. We're not looking at it at all. If you guys want to go find those people and you want to figure it out, that's on you, but we're not going to do it for you because they have no obligation to. It's not their jurisdiction.
All right. Before my time is up, I want to get to the crux of the issue. I think the establishment Democrat has been in power for my entire life, and since Clinton, they have become like the neo-lib party. They went more right. They saw what happened with Reagan, and they tried to mimic that kind of politics. Before that, they were very much like DSA candidates. You got the FDR candidacy. You got everyone after that, making sure to defend like social safety nets and like robust government reform to help the working class, right? And when Reagan came in, started chopping it all up, they saw that popularity. They kind of followed suit, and Clinton followed suit. Since then, it's all been cut slowly, and what it feels like.
Are you talking
from my
about
perspective-
pragmatically or ideologically?
From my perspective, it seems like it feels like they're just paid opposition, and I don't mean like that in a nefarious kind of way. It's just like the same people that have enough money to give the donations, like the military-industrial complex, the God, I'm sorry, I've been up since 8 o'clock. I worked
You're
the
good.
health insurance companies, big tech, like all these companies, they pay both sides. And it seems like they're never with the establishment Democrat, they rely on these kind of donations so they can never actually break free of like doing reform that will stop the actual issue, and just can only do band-aids to ease the problem because they are in the pockets of these corporations.
I guess
Alright,
when I think of like the concept of like it's controlled opposition or whatever else, I guess or like that they're more right than they should be. The thing I would always kind of wonder is when we say that they're more right than they should be, can we think of like what's a time that we feel in U.S. history where the Democrats could have done something more to the left and they chose not to? Like
They could not. They could have chose not to go and follow. They tried to make the bipartisan bill with the Republicans on the border, and that was literally going, "Hey, we're going to meet you halfway," instead of actually believing in something and advocating for the opposite, and saying like there isn't a huge problem with the border. The problem with immigration is that it takes years for people to get registered as citizens and the process to go through.
But that was
Instead
part of the
like-
border bill. That was part of the bipartisan border bill. Is they're saying yes, we
Yes,
can
but they
do
also-
these like more strict immigration enforcements, but we're not going to have to because we're going to have way more judges and way more people working on these cases. And so we're going to give you what you want, but it's not going to do anything because we're going to get what we want, which is going to make everything way more effective anyways.
Yeah, and they went halfway with what MAGA wanted, and they let Republicans. They came to the table, the Republicans, and conceded a bunch of stuff, and it still didn't pass anyway.
What concessions to
But
the
the
Republicans do you
Point
not
is
like?
though is that I'm trying to say it's not actually a concession is my point, is that like within the border bill they weren't actually conceding anything because as far as like as far as immigration enforcement went, getting way more judges in there to deal with these cases. The main complaint that they were talking about is they were calling all the people who came in and applied for asylum, they were calling those people illegals. And then they were complaining about the amount of illegals that were in the country because they're sitting there without status, waiting for a court appointment. And those court appointments took like 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 years. So instead, part of the border bill was that they were going to get way more judges. It was literally going to be like 75% more judges in the process, so that they were able to run through these people a lot more, and they were going to streamline the process a bit more, so that they were able to have lower level employees making some more decisions, so that they could do this quicker. So all of the problems that, again, like the Republicans didn't actually get anything out of that. We did.
They did. So
all right, they got a little bit of a rhetorical win by sounding like we were, catering to Republican needs. It sounds like we're saying, well, the Republicans are right in some ways, and I think that's what hurts people.
They were going to increase budget on the defense of our border. They were doing spending budgets for that kind of thing, and that's like a waste of our time.
I mean, maybe it's just really, me. I'm not against any of those things.
But we need to. I mean, we do need to control our border, right? And over the COVID stuff, especially because there was a huge wave of people coming in, there was an issue. I think there's 3 or 4 million people came in on catch and release. That was probably not good, right?
All right, let's let Shy Doomer have the last word here. We do need to keep things moving since we've got just such a giant list, and I want to get myself at least one more round of podcaster prisoner president before we shut down. So Shy Doomer, if you could please give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, like I said, I just think the Democrats don't do enough when it comes to their solutions, and I'm very excited that class consciousness is rising up, and I hope Destiny good luck on his court. Bye.
Okay.
Well, nice thing.
Well, all right. Normally we give people grift coin when they come on the show. Now Shy Doomer kind of jetted out before we could give her amount. But how do we feel about that call-in? Under 1,000, how much grift coin should we give Shy Doomer for a call?
Yes, our guests get to decide based on how much they like their call to award them our fake market currency grift coin based on how they like their call, up to 1,000. So what do you guys think? Did they deserve some grift coin?
Well, because
she
wished luck on the court case, obviously a huge Destiny fan, so I'm gonna give it to him to make that decision.
I'm gonna, since I feel like that caller, whether they realized it or not, they agreed with me more than they realized. I'll give them 501 grift coins.
My goodness,
50.1% agreement.
Look at that. Wonderful. Well, much appreciated, Shy Doomer. Thank you, as always, for calling in. Let's bring in someone who I know is staying up late in their home in Europe. Magnus, a member of our community, is in the waiting room. Let's bring in Magnus.
Hey, neighbor. Welcome, Magnus, to the Marketplace of Ideas. How you been, brother? Hello?
You're currently muted.
Hello? Testing,
Just
1, 2, 3.
Unmute the microphone. Oh, no.
And...
Oh, no. Did Magnus...
Oh, there
he is.
Oh.
Okay.
What's up,
I was
Magnus?
worried that you might have fallen asleep waiting, so I'm glad that you stayed with us.
I need to stream.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Do that.
I heard you double times.
All right.
Oh, yeah, we can't have that.
What's your comment or question about our discussion tonight? Do you have a question or comment for our guests?
I don't know. I just enjoy really the show you guys put up. I mean, you don't have to worry that I stay so long up. It's regularly not my week. No, I'm kind of. I was there when you guys a little bit prepared of the show. I was just interested what the dudes. I came a little bit late. And what do you guys think about this? What is this now? This communist thing? What do you have DSA? Was it DSA?
Sure, yeah, that's what's going on in the United States right now. Is the Democratic Socialists of America are taking the more extreme left side of the.
My question to your guest was do you guys think if they would actually succeed, do you not think if they would abolish the Senate that would not lead to a civil war?
Civil war?
Yeah, because I mean. The main purpose with the second chamber is that the states are represented equally. It's kind of similar to my originally home country, Switzerland. They have a similar system where they have also a second chamber where the states are represented equally.
We covered that a little bit in the first game, Magnus. If you guys want to give a little bit of a repeat of your answer, and what do you guys think?
I mean, like, for me, we didn't ask a Civil War question per se, but I mean, like, I feel like, I know there are people who've written on this, so I don't take their opinions over mine, but like, I feel like for Civil War to happen, there has to start being like some fundamental things that are not met. Like, people have to be like starving or like actually homeless.
The
or
material
actually,
conditions have to be correct.
Yeah, like your material conditions need to be severely degrade, or there is some like huge fundamental right up for grabs. Like if they were to ban, I don't know, Facebook. I don't know nothing about that. Something serious. Like I think it would have to be that. The reason why I actually don't think a civil war is very likely based on geographical grounds, because I feel like our split is not much on geography in terms of states. I feel like it is more between like city country stuff.
Yeah.
So like if Texas wants to leave, they want to secede from the United States, the people in Austin are not going to feel at home with your rural Texans. They're going to want to go back to San Francisco or LA, So I don't know how the split. And then like in California, your Central Californians are not going to feel like they jive as well with the Bay people and the.
Okay, then I have another
I think
question.
that the elites give everybody just a sliver of enough stuff to ever keep them from going to civil war.
The riot tax.
We're all just happy enough to keep us living in the world that they demand. Yeah, that's my civil war.
Power to the people.
We're happy enough.
I had one more question for like Destiny. You were pretty pragmatic towards like international relationships and stuff like that. Like realistically oriented. What do you think like about this thing coming up that Europe is kind of separating itself more from America in political relations?
I mean, I think it's tragic, but I mean, like, I get it, right?
It's just rational of them.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, I think that we're kind of benefiting from this post-World War II, order, and I think that that's probably slowly going to change, or maybe rapidly something big is going to happen, and that's going to start to change. And then it's going to be worrisome because I don't know how the world is going to respond when that change happens. So whether that's another Russian invasion somewhere or some big China thing or whatever else, I think that's going to be a spooky world to be a part of.
Yeah, there's so much built on this peace, this post-World War II peace that just hasn't been it hasn't been appreciated. And so when things start to change, global trade has been open for, since the Panama Canal or whatnot. And we're seeing how desperate, how quickly things can get if someone doesn't play along with the world order, with the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, where like one small area can capture something that is so vital to the economic success of the planet. If things start cascade failing, it could get real fucking bad real fucking quick, and I don't think people recognize how bad it could get how quickly. Like, we are such an interdependent world that if that starts to fall apart even a little, it just has that cascading effect that could just, it could be bad.
I don't know. I mean, America was clearly profiting like from the order after World War II. We were also made like we also had our benefits out of that kind of bilateral agreement with America, but like it's not like that America got nothing in exchange for it. I mean, we had a lot of trade agreements, we had a lot of there were a lot of like same values and understanding, and like Europe was many times looking sideways when America was doing shit or even supporting it. So I don't know. I'm a little bit sad the way it comes, but maybe it also allows us to come more to an eye level in the future.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, it's possible that things can end up working out. It's just, in my opinion, it's just going to be a little bit worse for everybody in the Western world. Like, but something will happen, but
yeah. All right.
Okay, good.
Well,
then I don't want to take too much time.
Hey, we
Magnus,
appreciate you.
Every one of you a nice evening.
So much appreciate you staying up to hang out with us. And how much of our fake currency shall we give Magnus here, gentlemen?
1,000.
Where are you from? Is that Australian?
German.
Oh, 999.
You know what? In support of better relations with Europe, let's give him that 999. Beautiful.
I'm amenable that.
Okay.
All right, Magnus, thank you so much. We'll see you next time, bud.
See you.
All right. It occurs to me that people are actually using the call-in system that we have here in the Marketplace of Ideas, where you can spend Grift Coin to jump to the top of the list. And it would appear that my notifications are not working. So I'm going to apologize to the folks who've been waiting and actually doing what the Discord says we do here, where we actually give priority to those who are willing to pay
We've never
for
had
it.
to use it before.
We've used it. Yes, we used it once when North gave his entire stack so that he could get on when there was literally nobody in front of him in line. I'm not, so yeah, a bit unusual for us, but lethal.
I do want to say real quick, this is kind of bullshit. Destiny's first time on here. I think it's my 5th or 6th time on here, and he's already in first place in the Grift Coin.
My
It would
God.
seem that
I'm now
Steven,
went from 2nd to 3rd. I feel like we need to start pushing the tomfoolery coin over here, guys.
In a shocking move that surprises everyone, I'm sure, Steven has overtaken the Marketplace of Ideas on his first episode. That is concerning. But yeah, it would seem here. Let's see. This is the
Dally Band making their presence known in the Marketplace of Ideas.
I see Lethal Lance is at the top of the list, but I don't see him in here. So we're gonna go with who's in second. So Punk 6 Knockout is gonna join us.
Hey, welcome Punk 6 Knockout to the Marketplace of Ideas. Welcome, neighbor.
Yeah, sorry to overlook you putting your hard-earned Grift Coin up to join the call. That is my bad. I should have been more on top of that. But I appreciate you being patient with us nonetheless. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Okay.
Awesome. Well, what do you have for us? You have a question for the panel?
I have so many questions. I'm a long-term Destiny viewer, but like, I kind of view Destiny like argumentatively. He's a really smart liberal. I've debated not swear like quite a lot of times, and I feel like I've done pretty well. So I'm a communist. You know, a lot of the ideas that come with it. So I guess there's a couple things that I have like specific questions on. I guess we could. I want to see where you guys
Why
want
don't
to take
you
it. So I
choose
have
the
a
best of one?
question.
Because we got a lot of callers that are trying to get in. We want to get through a good bit of them. So why don't you choose your favorite thing you'd like to ask about?
There's so many things. Okay, so I guess one, the definitions around anti-Semitism and whether a lot of people on the left fall into it. Two, well, I guess let's just do that one. Fuck it, let's do the anti-Semitism one.
All right, so
I don't think there's a
what's your
problem
criticism?
with anti-Semitism on the left. I don't think it's reasonable to talk about to call out, in the sense that anti-Semitism is specifically like disliking Jews for being Jewish. I don't think you can, like, say for instance, right? Destiny years ago, I remember him making these specific arguments towards black men. I'm a black man, right? Where he talks about, it's not racist to disagree with like the gangster-esque culture that black people, portray. It's not racist to, say, hey, black men in society, to get more respect, you should, pull your pants up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are things that, he's touted and he's talked about in the past, which I find a little bit more slightly racial issue with, but it's not
Well, if I
inherently
can,
racist.
real quick,
It's not racist.
the examples that you're bringing
Right.
up those are things that are actually happening in reality. The things that, like, normally we're not talking about whether or not somebody hates Jews. When we call them anti-Semitic, we're normally talking about some sort of discrimination against them or some sort of bias. And so even lots of times, it may not be that Hassan hates Jewish people, but he does say a lot of things that can be considered anti-Semitic. So just the other day we were watching.
Problem. No, I get you. I get you. You're going to bring up specific examples of Hassan saying stuff that points to the sort of conspiracy around, Jewish people or Israeli people, right? Like hinting at that, right? And I think the issue here And the problem is,
Not even that.
you know,
Not even that. It's just like using tropes. Like if Fox News keeps calling black people thugs and gangsters when they're not actually thugs and gangsters, this is a trope that he's applying to black people unnecessarily to give like some sort of thought process behind them. If every time Hassan talks about Zionists, he calls them bloodthirsty,
Pig dogs.
inbred Zionist pig dogs. Like, yes, like when he loads these tropes that are obviously like bloodthirsty is going to relate to blood libel, and the inbred thing is about them all sleeping with each other and not ever like mating
so my
outside of their
response to
culture.
this
Like,
is, and I get you. I see where you are, because I'm trying to head you off, and I'm sorry about that. But
you're good.
the reason why I have an issue with this specific framing is because Israel is like, it's like we pretend Israel's not doing what it's doing. Israel is really bad. Israel is committing a war that you all say is being persecuted immorally, wrongly, right? They're killing a lot of people, they're decimating a lot of land, they're doing a lot of terrible shit, and we're all getting a 4K view of it 24/7. So with that being said, when you speak about, yeah, and I get it. I don't like I'm all for, building a better world, building a better society, not throwing people away, not, cast them away. I do think it's kind of weird, especially as Americans, how we talk about Israel when we weren't in the Middle East doing the same thing for decades and decades. I get that, right? But the problem is when you're seeing violence on the scale committed at this consistency rate, and it's becoming increasingly clear that it's for no good or moral reason, I think it's only natural for humans to start to react with this sort of vitriol. Now, you might say it may not be right, but that doesn't mean it's anti-Semitic, right? That doesn't mean.
The problem is that the vitriol was on day one.
Well,
like if this had been the position that a lot of these people
situation has been immorally terrible since day one. That's the problem,
then
right?
No. I think we just disagree on that then.
Like Israel
The
can be
situation
horrible,
has been
but when they
super
talk about
terrible?
Zionists, they're talking about all Zionists, right?
What response would have been acceptable for Israel on October 8th?
What response would have been acceptable for Israel on October 8th? If they were to just find everyone who was engaged in the specific terrorist attack and get those specific people, I think that would have been justified in that alone. Engaging in a wholesale regime change war, completely unjustified, completely wrong. And that's what they're doing, right?
Okay.
Is that not a good response?
I don't think it's realistic to assume that they could have just found all the terrorists and just gotten the terrorists and then have been done with it.
So it's more realistic to do a regime change war than to find all the terrorists who did the terrorist attack.
No, you can't just go into the place that is like ran by the country of the terrorists, who are also the government of that country, and then try to find all the terrorists.
I'm just saying that would have been more acceptable, or at least the attempt, or maybe they could have gotten 50 of them or 100 of them.
You want to know whatever? Actually, you want to know why I know that this wouldn't have been enough? Even I already don't think that this is possible. But you know why I know for a fact that this wouldn't have changed the rhetoric even a micrometer? Is because when Israel did an attack like this on Hezbollah, the criticism was basically the same, where it was actually like the fantasy movie attack of they actually put bombs in all the pagers of all the bad guys and they blew them up. And the only thing I heard from leftists was there was like a girl that got either killed or injured of one of the like thousands that went off. And it was like, okay, this is like, I don't agree with any of these people that it would have moved the needle on them in any way, size, shape, or form for the rhetoric that they engaged in.
Funnily enough, people are calling me a Pisco viewer. I never watch Pisco. He's really boring. I watch you mostly, but I'll say this, and this is one of the arguments that Pisco said, like, you're not talking to them. You're talking to me. So if you're talking about these other things that these leftists have done or the other things that leftists wouldn't agree with, that's fine. I think a lot of leftists are fucking stupid.
Okay, do you think that the Hezbollah attack, do you think that that was a good attack that Israel did?
With the pagers?
Yeah.
We would have to run so deep into my framing on these issues.
So it was the same. I don't know why you just pretend like this wasn't your position.
No. The reason why I'm saying you would have to run in deep with my framing on these issues is because, like, I don't know if you know much about me. Like, I've debated not swearing at a lot. I'm pretty far into the conspiracy pill, even farther than most leftists. So when you say, would the pager attack have been a justified response? like I'm looking into who was, funding Hezbollah, who put them in position,
Iran?
Yeah, Iran, right? If if you say so, we also put the Irani government, the current one, in position. The CIA did that.
No, not.
Wait, that's not true.
The current
That's
government
not
does not
openly
exist.
admitted to by the American
The current
government that we put
government
them in
does not-
power.
To say that we were involved in a coup a long time ago, and then as a result of that coup being overturned, somebody else came to power. To say that,
Well, do you see the issue with me as a leftist to sit here and agree with you and be like, yeah, I agree with the pager attack when I can look back at like U.S. documents, Western governmental documents
Are
from
you saying
multiple
that that was
countries
their
saying
intent?
we did this
though? Are
regime
you
change,
saying
we did
their
that regime
intent
change,
was to
found
we
have
by
installed
Iran.
this
Why
dictatorship,
would-
we installed
why would
that
Iran-
dictatorship, we installed this.
Okay.
And when
Alright.
and then when you come back to me at 2026 and be like, well, was the pager attack justified? I'm like, well, I don't know. Did they put them in position because that was the best situation for them? And when we look at the historical record on this, that's factually true. They do put these people in position. They're specifically writing documents saying, "Hey, we put these Muslim extremists because they were more amenable to our ideas, and we could justify overtaking them whenever we wanted." We can find like hundreds of thousands of
Listen, I
documents
agree
that's
with
all over the
everything.
world.
That's fine. I understand.
Okay,
I understand your perspective on this. I'm just saying that all you've done is you've come in here and you've reinforced the exact take that I gave at the beginning, which is nothing would move the needle for you regardless. Which
Okay,
is why
you think I'm
I
as
don't
dumb
engage
as
in these
John?
arguments. I didn't say you're dumb. I'm just saying that you thought that
Okay,
there was
so
no
stop trying to
before
tie me to
October 7th
Hassan
Hang
and
on.
beat my arguments
I
by
didn't mention
tying me to a
Hassan.
dumber man. Okay, that's not fair.
I'm not
Okay,
saying I'm not tying you to
so-
Hassan. I'm saying that no other action seemed like it would have moved the needle for you.
Well, okay, you don't think I would have any other like ideas towards how to solve the world other than like blowing shit up with pagers? Like there's nothing
You
else we
just
can do in the
gave-
world.
You just
Okay.
gave the special forces invade and take out all the bad guys somehow meme. I don't
Well,
know how the fuck that could possibly be.
All right, I think we're going to cut this
Definitely,
call here because we are trying to raise the level of the discourse, not the level of people's blood pressure. And I don't see a lot of positive outcomes of this part of the conversation. I understand
Wow,
where you're
okay.
coming from. I understand where you're coming from. It's difficult to imagine.
You got a smarter
perfect
leftist than
solution.
Hassan in here, and you kicked me out. I find that
Well,
interesting.
We're
That's
not
a
kicking you out,
not a
we
heavy
just-
bar, not a high bar.
Yeah. Also, we've got a big old list of people that
Yeah.
also wants to get in, and
That's fine.
we are
Alright.
trying to give everybody a good amount of time. So far, we're about 10 minutes apiece, but we do appreciate you calling in, and we would still like to give our guests the opportunity to give you some Griff coin. Gentlemen, what do we think? How much Griff coin do we give Punk 6?
Destiny.
200.
200. All right. Well, we appreciate you bringing up your disagreement, and we would hope to see you again at some point, Punk 6.
Yeah, Punk
Thank you
6,
so much
come
for calling in.
hang out in the Discord sometime and tell me how to be a better leftist. I'd love to hear your perspective personally. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, and there we go.
Thank you,
All
neighbor.
right.
Did
Well,
he just
that
call
was
you
our-
a Fed?
He did indeed.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about James is he gets it from both ends because he's
'Cause I'm
he's
into
certainly
that.
too far left for the right, and maybe
Definitely
not.
too far left.
I got
Perhaps
time for
so.
one more of these, just letting you guys know.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, then we will take one more call.
Can we see anybody on that list that would be definitely a great caller? I don't know most
well,
of these people. Who freaking knows?
Your boy Megu has given their hard-earned Griff coin to join the call, so we are
Alrighty.
going to let your boy Megu
honor
join us
that.
for our last call in here. Your boy Megu, thank you so much for putting forth your Griff coin to jump to the top of the list. You're on the Marketplace of Ideas. Thanks for calling in.
No worries. I have a question for Stephen and Tom. I was wondering if they had any thoughts on how to create effective anti-leftist talking points or anti-leftist messaging. It feels like a lot of the time when people talk about leftists, it feels like we're not doing enough to put enough narrative in how we're trying to make people think about them. Just wanted to I figured since Tom's the host of the show, he could probably go first with that.
Very well.
Thank you. I appreciate you recognizing that as well.
Damn it.
So,
Demoted
I
from
mean,
the
I
damn
talked about
show.
this a little bit earlier.
Fuck this
I think
shit.
that there isn't enough praise for Democrats. I think that obviously this doesn't mean that you don't criticize Democrats. And I think that's normally what a lot of people take it as when I talk about the fact that like Republicans are really good at just glazing Trump and talking about how great he is all the time. They'll criticize him. They'll all do this like, oh, I don't agree with his rhetoric and he shouldn't have said what's genocide everybody. But like we can maybe not justify genociding people, but maybe have some pro-Democrat rhetoric. I think that is the I think that is something that is like necessary for the left, and it's currently just not popular to be pro-Democrats. Every time I say something like Joe Biden was the best president of my lifetime, everybody thinks I'm joking. They actually think it's a joke that I would say that. And I unironically think it is the easiest thing to say in the world, but that people think it's such a meme because literally nobody's willing to say that because literally nobody's going to be pro-Democrats right now. So I think it just has to become popular again. Destiny's been around long enough to know that about 5 years ago, it was like the worst thing in the world to call yourself a liberal. It was literally used as like a term of like boomer. People say, oh, okay, lib. All right, lib. Like even people on the left did not want to call themselves liberals. And then slowly over time, I think IRI was like one of the first to stop calling himself a progressive, start calling himself a liberal again. And it became normalized again for people to just call themselves liberals. But that's it's still a thing that's kind of odd. So I think that we have to normalize a lot of this rhetoric and normalize being pro-Democrat, normalize being a liberal again, and not just a leftist or a progressive or a Demsoc or a SocDem, but an actual liberal.
Yep.
All right, Destiny, you're
Destiny, I'll let you go now.
I would say, as I've been saying, I feel like I've said this a lot, is that like part of fighting against the left is that you get to define your talking points more. So when you say things like we don't agree with the abolition of fucking capital or whatever, that people getting to choose the jobs they were, I don't know, it sounds so weird because it's so foundational. I guess being able to take credit of good things like huge investments in green energy, like that happened because Biden was able to bring, senators together on the left or right in order to get these bills passed. Or when we talk about, like there are some things that we take for granted now for the ACA, the fact that it used to be that if you had a pre-existing condition, you could never get new health insurance. Like these were just the realities that Americans had to live with, and Democrats were able to get shit done relating to that. And I think that was a really good, powerful, positive thing. So like us being able to differentiate ourselves from the left and then taking credit for more of our accomplishments, I think those two things go hand in hand, and once you start doing them, they will naturally kind of play off of each other.
Okay. I had one more question. Do I have time for that, or should I?
No, I think we're gonna. Okay. All right, real quick.
I say we have enough time.
Okay.
So, one of the issues is obviously to do with the blue no matter who stuff. It feels like a lot of the leftists are just acting in bad faith with regards to it. How do either of you feel is the best way to approach dealing with someone who's acting in bad faith within a supposed like left-leaning coalition?
I mean, they're not part of your coalition. If they act in bad faith, then they're not on your team. You just treat them
Yeah.
as such. They're not on the team. That's it. It's pretty simple, I think. Yeah.
All right.
Fair enough. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, ya boy Migu, for calling in. How much grift coin shall we give ya boy Migu?
950.
Wow.
950? That's simpy. I vote 600. Do we average the two?
Yeah, let's average the two. James, you're
making
better
these
at math
coins.
than
You're
me.
inflating the value of these coins. You're giving away 900 every time, Tom. What the fuck?
Well,
We do wanna
used
keep
to, I
things
used
in
to always
check.
ask everybody if they were going to give it all to me, and when they said yes, I would give them 1,000 every time. But they made this against the rules now, so
We didn't
Illusion.
actually make it against.
I
the
might be a
rules.
bit
These are-
biased,
these
but
are
I think
jeers,
the
and
950
more
is
points I
fair.
give them, the more I give them, the more they're going to give it to you. So I'm just hurting
775
my
is
own-
the average.
my
We're
own
giving
value
them.
here.
775 to your
Beautiful.
boy Megu. All right.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so much
calling
for
in.
calling in. We'll hope to see you again sometime in the future. All right.
No worries. All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right, and to everybody else who is in the waiting room, I'm very sorry. We are unfortunately out of time tonight. We'll hopefully see you again. Thank you so much to our guests, Tom Foolery and Stephen Bennell, a.k.a. Destiny, for hanging out with us tonight. Real quick, because it's my show and I'm really greedy, just a lightning round. Who goes to prison here?
Oh, man. Oh, my goodness.
I wanted to get this round real bad.
Oh, man. I think we're out of time, though, aren't we?
Unfortunately, we are out of time.
This is why I hate this game. This is literally why I hate this game.
Alrighty. Well, you know what? Thank you all for coming this evening. I had a great time. Destiny, we really appreciate you joining the ranks of the Marketplace of Ideas. We hope to have you back sometime. Tom, also, we love you coming back again. We always have a great time with you. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks for having a good time with us, and y'all take care and have a wonderful evening. Oh wait, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit up our YouTube. We are starting out. We're a new show. We're working on things. Obviously, you can see we put a lot of work into this train wreck of a show. And if you'd like to see more, please come subscribe to us on the Marketplace of Ideas on YouTube.
I do want to say real quick, I did say before that you guys had like about a year before your channel disappeared, but I do like you guys. I think you'll make it about like a year and a half. So
hey, all right, that's a vote of confidence.
Hey, beautiful.
Appreciate that, Tom.
Alrighty, well,
we'll see how we fare. Real quick, if you're not subscribed to Tom, do that. Tom Foolery on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to Destiny, do that. Tom Foolery Show. My bad.
Tom Foolery Show.
Yeah, and not
alrighty.
Just tomfoolery, and certainly Destiny on YouTube as well. And where else can anything else you gentlemen want to shout out?
Anything coming up? Anything?
Wendy's just got the Bacon Club back. Pretzel Club. It is amazing. If you guys haven't tried this, definitely go get it. They haven't had it in like 3 years, and they just brought it back. I am super stoked about that.
God bless America. America on top again.
Okay.
All right, Destiny, anything coming up? All right. Okay, fine.
Screaming in the end.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye, y'all.
All right.
Thank you very much.